Hello and welcome to another episode of Podcast 572. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. I'm joined by my two friends, Dan and Matt. It is the big Starfield release week. Is also for me personally, and we can briefly discuss it. It feels weird to me, but I've been to 2 concerts in the last 7 days, and I'm not really like a big concert goer. So one of them was a gift from my girlfriend for her birthday. The concert was like a month after her birthday. The other one was for me for my birthday, which is next week. So we went last week and we saw, she wanted to see Disturbed. So, and it was Disturbed and Breaking Benjamin, which a little relevant to this show because they did play the Halo 2 song, which, complete with the, monk chanting intro from Halo 2, into the song. And they did play, which I think I texted you about this, Dan, as it was happening. They played whatever song that they had that was attached to that very shitty game from 2002 called Run Like Hell. But what was funny was, they had like a big digital display thing behind them that would play graphics of some of their music videos and stuff. They literally played clips from that fucking game from 20 years ago. That's somehow still relevant in 2023. Exactly.
Clips of that game.
Because they had clips of Halo 2 in the background.
Well, sure.
My favorite part about the Halo 2 is the rest of that, they played their hits, whatever, but when that song came on, I was the only person in the area I was sitting who was fucking pumped to hear that. Most of those people there were like, I don't know what song this is.
Single tear came to your eye.
Exactly. I'm like, I remember that part of the game. Yeah. I'll say the other thing I'll say about this, Disturbed for that concert. Disturbed was fantastic. Breaking Benjamin is doing the thing that's happening a lot with bands right now, and it's a big controversial thing in the concert industry and the music industry right now, where they will have backing tracks. They will have the music is being played, but they're kind of playing it, but not really playing it. But it was for them specifically. It was so bad and so apparent. And maybe I'm just one of the only people sitting around that could grasp this concept. There are 2 prominent songs. I mean, I don't know how much you know about Breaking Benjamin, but there's one singer. Nobody else is singing in that band. Maybe backup vocals or whatever. There was one very prominent song that was sung by the bass player, but when he's singing, it's the lead guy's voice coming out, and that dude's just in the back drinking some water.
Whoa! And
this crowd is still going nuts. They don't understand the concept of nobody's really singing here, So that all happens in that concert, and then the whole time I'm sitting there, they have the break between, so you got to break the stage down, build it up for the next band, and the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, if Disturbed comes out, all the little bit I know about Disturbed is that dude has a fucking amazing voice. Say what you will about Disturbed, that dude's voice is phenomenal. And I was like, if that dude comes out and he phones it in with some backing vocals, it's going to be a huge bummer. No, not at all. That dude killed every song. And I was very impressed. So that concert, Breaking Benjamin stuff, that was a bummer, but Disturbed was really good. And then last night, for me, for my birthday, I got to scratch off a bucket list band, so I got to see Pearl Jam, finally, which was fantastic. So that was God, they played for 2.5 hours now, I think about it. But they played, it's weird because at least maybe it's how it is now. I know people, I have one friend who's seen them 10 times. So this is the first time I've seen them. I'm the kind of person who's okay, I'm good. I don't need to go see this band again. But they have a part of their music catalog they just actively avoid playing songs from. and it's really bizarre.
Some bands are
these
like
specific
that, though.
albums are pretty popular and like pretty recent, so it's weird. But it was a fantastic show. If you're this was kind of surreal and weird, but like if you are a lover of sports in the Chicago area, they actually brought out
Chris Chelios.
famously Chris Chelios, because they're retiring his number.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dope.
But that was pretty cool, like to see Chris Chelios come out and stuff. I mean, that's somebody I watched as a kid when I used to watch hockey.
It was cool.
So.
He didn't know beforehand either. That was
he seemed like super shocked to the point that like when they handed him a jersey to put on, he put it on backwards.
Well,
just
so people
there.
could see his name.
Exactly, but it was a fantastic show. So that's all I'll say about that. Concert season for me is now over. So like maybe next year we'll do something. But the big thing this week, obviously, as we'll go into it, is Starfield, which I have dumped a lot of time into actually. So I went against what I was saying, and I dove into the early access. What sold me on doing that, there's two reasons it sold me doing on it. Number one, this game technically launched publicly for everybody Wednesday, and I knew I wouldn't have any time. A little bit of time Wednesday. Last night I was going to the concert. I'm like, I'm not going to have much time to even speak on it. The other thing that sold me is if you do the early access, it gives you, whenever it comes out, it'll give you access to like the DLC expansion that they're going to do.
Okay.
Which is automatically going to be like $20 anyways. So it was $30 to do the early access, and like I paid $10 for early access. Is the way I look at it. So, I mean, I don't know what you played a little bit of it, Dan. I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was able to play it probably about 4 hours total before.
Okay.
Well, we could just.
Yeah. So we got an email on it, so I'll read that real quick here. This comes from Michael from Port St. Lucie, and hopefully I said that right, Florida. It says, howdy dudes, I was curious now that it's been out in the wild for a few days or over a week with early access, what you all think of Starfield. Does it live up to the absurd hype, or does it fall flat? Is this finally the huge win Microsoft needs? Thanks.
So let me go first because I haven't played as much as you, and I'll talk about like my experience playing with it because
you have a unique experience than myself, or I think even Matt. You played a little bit. So.
Able to play it, but I don't have a Series S or an X yet. So I went ahead and I was like, let's try the cloud gaming because I do have access to that, and it's not a multiplayer game, so that won't matter in terms of like connection and all that stuff.
Well, and you should also preface you were playing cloud on your One X.
Yeah, I'm playing on a One X.
So you weren't doing it on a phone.
Yeah, in theory, this should work fine. And I will tell you that it runs. That's probably the best way I could describe it. It's not even close to like it's not even close to good. It's stable at best. Constant like sometimes it would happen multiple times within a couple minutes where I would just get like a thing where it's like, oh, we lost the connection. We got to reconnect. And it would just give me like a little thing. And then sometimes that would take 2 seconds to reconnect. Sometimes it would take 15 where it would go to this like menu where like it would kick me back out and then it would load up and then I'd be loaded back into the game in like the pause menu. So the game like auto pauses you. I'm like, okay.
That's good at least.
Yeah, but then there would be stretches where I was able to play for 45 minutes or an hour where that didn't happen. So it was kind of a weird experience. The only other thing I'll say is obviously graphics are not great when you're doing this.
No, they probably scaled down a little bit.
They scaled down quite a bit. And something I would tell you I saw constantly would be like over time as I would do more, it would slowly get worse. Until at one point you would like turn around and it would do this weird like screen vertical wipe where like a line would come down the screen and it would clean it all back up. And it would be back to normal. Interesting. It was kind of, but it was strange because it would like kind of take you out of it. So I played enough to the point where I realized that I'll just say like I really like this game like quite a bit, but I can't play it like this anymore because I don't want to keep getting interrupted. I don't want to get taken out of it. I want to be able to just play it for a couple hours in a row.
You don't want to sour the experience.
Yeah, like because from what I have played so far, and I will tell you that I have gone to Constellation and I have left the first planet to go do like the first thing. That's how far.
Okay.
Because I rounded around New Atlantis quite a bit, just kind of like the way you can just like pick up quests by like listening to people or like talking to people. Like it's so it's so like natural for that game where, you know, I walked past somebody and it was like, oh, I hear there's like some power outages down in the well.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh,
actually,
okay.
I did that quest.
Let's go check that out. And then you go down there and there's a whole other city underneath this place. I'm like, that thing is cool. Walking around in there and like doing that little quest where it's just like flipping breakers. But then I found this like locked apartment in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, all right, let's try to break in here. So I managed to pick the lock, which lock picking is weird in this game, but I actually kind of like it because
I like it. Yeah,
you have to think about it. You can't just like brute force it, which is good. But I laughed because so I popped that apartment door and there's just a dead body in the middle of the floor. I was like, what the hell happened in here? And before I can even like do anything else, this giant robot dog comes charging out of this back room. I'm like, oh shit. Like, and I have to kill that thing. So that's like a fun like mini story you find. And like, I just love.
Did you finish that quest with the power breakers or no?
Yes, I did. And then you get given a choice. Do I help
Who
this
did you
person?
choose?
I picked the lady I was helping like figure out what's going on.
That's what I did too. That's what I did too.
Screw this other lady. Something's
that was my reaction too. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not gonna fuck over this lady. That's
Yeah, so but like that's the kind of stuff about these games and like Fallout 4 that I really enjoy is getting lost doesn't even seem like it's a bad thing. It seems like that's what you're supposed to do. And
absolutely.
You know.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's some games you feel like, oh man, I just keep getting sidetracked. But in this game, the sidetrack is the game for me. Like I get that there's a story and it's cliche of help us find this artifact, and it's like, of course it is, because it's a space game.
It gets more cliche than that. 'Cause I've done a little bit of that.
You and I've talked about it a little bit. Where like it definitely has like a Mass Effect feel to it more than any other game.
Yeah, so like that would be the biggest thing I would compare it to. Is the biggest thing I would tell anybody that is asking about it that for whatever reason is still on the fence is you have to go into it looking at it as this is Oblivion, Skyrim, or Fallout in space. This isn't No Man's Sky 2. And I think a lot of people wanted that from Bethesda. And it's very clear, like, they said this ahead of time. They showed a little bit of it at the Direct last June, but everything about like space travel is kind of loading screens and menus. It's not.
I was talking to you about it, and I said that's the one part of the game that really kind of takes me out of it, because you're fast traveling to a ship that's like orbiting a planet.
But see, the other thing I would say is that for you were on streaming, so I'm sure the loading was longer than it is. Like if you're on a SSD, it's not.
Sure, but loading wasn't even the problem. I just think that's the interface and like that's how it works is kind of lame. Like, let me fly towards the planet. It feels dumb to be able to sit in front of the planet and have like my speed all the way up and hit a booster and you don't move.
Yeah, well, you have to like move around with the different power levels and stuff. They have a tutorial, but it's not. I will say it's not great.
No, it's kind of whatever. But it just seems it's a weird function where if that's how it's going to work, then let me just go straight to the thing on the planet I want to go to. Like, don't even have me sit outside the planet to be.
I'll give the game like. I like the fact that it doesn't hold your hand for everything, but at the same time, there's some things where I'm like, you should at least do a little more here,
right?
In explaining what this does or what that does, because this isn't
the ship stuff.
Even though it is the next one of these types of games, there are new things here that aren't in the previous games that these people have made. So,
and the other thing I would say is like, it is. You could ostensibly think of it as like the next game after Fallout. It doesn't even feel like Fallout to me. Like I was telling you, one of the things that's missing from Fallout is it's missing. Like I miss VATS a lot. I find myself constantly doing it and then realizing, oh, that game doesn't have this. So it does. It does make it fall back into more of a shooter, which is okay, and the shooting is good, but.
So there's not a VATS, but like later on you do get powers.
Sure.
So one of the powers I have now, it's not a replacement for VATS because that's a whole different thing. But like the power I have right now, I can literally like lift people up in the air and slow them down.
Yeah.
Kind of like, but you're not zooming in and picking body parts to shoot like VATS. It's just they're slowed down for like 30 seconds.
It's a minor complaint. It's just one of those things where I have to get used to because it's not Fallout. And then I think the only other thing I don't like is like, I get maybe why it doesn't exist, but like no map is terrible. It's so easy to get turned around or not realize that like, oh, this thing is above this, but I need to go down first. Like that whole the first like main thing you go to, you constantly have to go in to go down. It's like, this is so dumb. There has to be other ways to do this. So
it's a game that like it's not a perfect game. It definitely has like it has some roughness around the edges, but I think there's so much good going on that you can forgive some of the downfalls. But like there are certain things about it that I think are very clunky. The whole way you travel through space and fast traveling, the maps is all like doesn't feel very well thought out. It just feels almost more like a last minute like we just need to get this out now.
I think it feels like a concession. Like they were trying to do more and they couldn't.
Like they wanted to, and they're like, this system just isn't there. To do that. Yeah.
The other argument is this game's been out for a week, technically 2 days. Like this game is going to be supported for years. So
people have, like in a week of early access, people have already made wild mods. Within a month or two, somebody will make a mod that fixes the map.
Yep, there'll be a mini map, or they'll do this, they'll do that.
I don't think they've ever. I haven't looked. I would assume they've said at some point like you'll be able to mod on the Xbox like their previous games,
like Fallout and stuff. Yeah.
I don't think they would turn that off there. Obviously, if you have the game on Steam, you can mod it right now.
Well, it's already crazy on Steam.
You can't really mod it on the Game Pass version on PC because they kind of lock that down. But Matt, you see, you played a little bit of it because I'll talk about it once.
I downloaded it like when it was pre-install on my PC, and I maybe played like 3 minutes of it yesterday. So like I just tried to I was like, well, let me just see what it's like. Let me get started with it and kind of see what it's about. I mean, I can't really talk much to it, but I mean it seems interesting. Like
it takes a little while out of the gate. Like you didn't even make your character for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean,
it's a little bit into that mission.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give it a little more time to see how I kind of feel with it because I'm not a huge fan of like Fallout and all of those other games. So it might not be my realm, and that's totally cool. But
to be fair, the game does start fairly quickly. Like you're not locked in to like you do this like first mission, and it's pretty much from that point. It's like, okay, you can go now, and it's just you're ready to go. Like even games like Fallout, like the older ones would 3 you're in the vault for a while in the beginning.
I'll say like you're kind of given the reins of that ship like real fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a way that it's almost questionable.
It's a little odd. It's a little odd.
Yeah. The guy's just very happy to give his ship away.
He's ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
I'll say one more thing before you talk about it too much, Kyle. I'll say the other thing that is annoying to me is obviously you're in space, so there are multiple times where you'll have to wear a spacesuit and wear a helmet. That's fine.
Yeah.
I get it. So one of the first things I did was you get like a favorites menu where you can put like, what is it, like 12 things on it because you can put 3 things on each thing. So I was like, okay, when I'm in like a town, I don't want to run around with my spacesuit and my helmet on. So I'll take that off and then I'll favorite my spacesuit and my helmet to one of these buttons so I can quickly put it back on. Selecting it again does not take it off. Like what? Like it should be like a toggle. It shouldn't be like to take it off. If I want to take it off while I'm in the town, I have to go into a menu to take it off. And the menus are clunky.
They're clunky. They're not
weirdly laid out.
It's weirdly laid out.
There's quadrants, but then there's also things on this circle.
Bethesda has done better in the past. Like I don't think they've ever been great with their menu systems. That's one thing I'll say. Like as someone who's modded a lot of Skyrim and Fallout 4, people make mods to fix that. They make way better menus than they do really fast.
It's always been like that. Like the Pip-Boy is cool in theory, but it gets cumbersome after a while.
But the spacesuit thing does kind of trigger me a little bit because if you're walking around, like for example, that main planet you go to in the beginning, that's like kind of the hub. Like you just be walking around, people will comment like, "You don't need to wear a spacesuit here, guy. Like you can breathe just fine. Like you idiot." Like they'll say stuff too.
It's like in first person, there's no way to tell if it's on or off. Aside from that, like there's not even like an indicator on the screen that would be like your spacesuit's
like maybe
on
like
or it's off.
The fact that like the border like might be there. You know what I mean?
It's just first person. But
you know what's even more? I'll tell you what's even more bothersome. Well, you can't set it up so that and I'm sure somebody will mod this. It might even already be a mod where I feel like you should be able to set it up like, okay, I'm on this planet where I don't have to wear a spacesuit. I should automatically be in my whatever I'm wearing underneath
jacket, or
because jacket, right? Your companions that works like that without problem.
Yes.
But not for you,
because the first thing I did was I left that planet and I went to I think you go to like a Mars type planet.
Yes,
and you'd land, and immediately it's like you're dying. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to put this thing on, so I had to run it, and then by that point it's like you've lost this much health, so I had to go back into the spaceship and rest to get rid of that. It's just dumb because it should be. If you're gonna step onto a planet that will hurt you, it should automatically put your suit on. It shouldn't if you have
but the fact that it does it for my follower, automatically do it. Whoever I have following me is absurd.
Just a weird.
Because I'll see them, it's like they're in a spacesuit, and the next thing I'm back on that Meg Hub planet, I look over to the chick or whatever I have, and she's just out in her regular outfit.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing that it should just be an automatic toggle kind of thing.
It's like weird stuff like that. But the biggest thing I'll say about it is it is a game yes, there are little minor complaints about some things are clunky and stuff, but how shocking is it that this game came out and it's not your typical Bethesda garbage pile mess?
It works.
Think about it. When Skyrim launched in the 360, the first month of that game, which I did everything in it the first month before the patch came out, that game ran without the proper textures half the time.
That game barely worked on the PlayStation 3. Remember that?
It's barely. They have a long history of their games not working great on PlayStation. It's been well documented, but Fallout 4 was kind of a mess even too. It launched each one of these games has always had the Bethesda chain.
Yeah,
and there's a little bit of it here, but for the most part, it's an incredibly polished game. It works. Nothing. I've not seen anything game breaking, people falling through a floor or something. Nothing crazy like that.
I haven't gotten stuck on anything.
Or you remember the good old the dude's head spinning around.
Yeah.
The Exorcist style. Yeah. Nothing like that has happened.
Let me ask you this: the first mission, the pirate mission.
Okay. Yeah.
How did you end it?
I think I will preface. I played 22 hours.
Okay,
so the pirate mission,
you go through that lab and you work your way to the roof because the guy wants your shit because he thinks there's something in it.
Oh yeah. Okay, so because I should preface by saying I'm playing as you in the game because that's the long-standing tradition since Fallout 4. When my character already kind of looked like you and my buddy and I were like, let's just do this, and it worked.
Yep.
I was able to tweak this, and now I kind of kick myself because I've seen people make Frasier. I've seen people make my favorite one. That's a common one. My favorite one I've seen is Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm sort of an industrialist myself. That made me laugh. But I played.
I told you I made Becky Lynch.
Oh, nice.
So in the game, Spacer Dan or whatever, you were a space scoundrel. And the perk I picked for you is you're always wanted. So so what that does is every so often I'll float to I'll warp the ship to a new system and I'll immediately get hit by some bounty hunters. You can either pay them off or fight them. But your character also is a smooth talker.
Okay.
So in that pirate mission that you had, I talked them down.
Me too.
Yeah, and they finally were like, "Yeah, this really isn't worth it." This kind of month, I was like,
I told him, I'm like, "Yeah, man, there's nothing in this ship," and he's like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, man."
Because I'll say too,
he's like, "Oh, never mind."
They kind of took the persuasion system of Oblivion, but they've made it better, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's interesting how it works because it's just a little like addition game, basically, where you get different points for what you're going to say.
It reminds me of another game too. I can't quite place. There's another game.
It's well done because it's not. I'll say this: like I thought, like first couple conversations I had because your character Space Dan here, he has the perk or whatever. But no, I have failed those two. Where it's just like no, they're like nah, buddy, we're fighting it out.
I get since I made my class a bouncer. I get intimidate bonuses.
Okay, that's good.
It's basically like I'll kick your ass if you don't like step off, and people are like, okay, never mind, I don't want part of this. So I like that in the game where you can kind of just talk your way out.
I've always enjoyed that with all of their games. Like you don't always have to solve everything by killing everybody.
Yeah,
like you can talk your way out of it.
Yeah,
it can get tedious. So, so I put about 22 hours into it thus far. I mean the bold statement I'll make, which will probably trigger some people. For me, like I was excited about the game. I'm looking forward to it for a while. I am also the target demographic for a Bethesda RPG, so that's what I'm looking for all the time. And I will say, of this console generation, so far, it is my favorite exclusive game that has come out for a system, and that is counting God of War. That's counting Horizon.
Oh.
I guess you can count Miles Morales, but that was on both.
I wouldn't count that.
Even the Demon Souls remake. So now again, we're a month away from Spider-Man 2. That
Spider-Man might change that. Yeah,
that might change in a month. But like for me, this is what I've been looking for, and I've been looking forward to it. I will not say it's the best Bethesda Studios RPG because that's always going to be Oblivion for me. This game doesn't have like. When it started, for me, it didn't have the wow factor that some of their other games had. Obviously, for me, Oblivion was the big one, walking out of the prison, getting out and like, oh god, this world is huge. Skyrim had that to an extent.
Fallout had it too, where
Fallout
like, you leave the vault and you're like, oh my god, yeah.
This game, it's more like you get it gradually as you start to go to different planets, and then you kind of realize, okay, this game's actually pretty big. Like, there's a lot going on, but it's not an immediate thing. That the intro mission that you play with you're kind of in like a mining situation.
Yeah.
You get a little
quick tutorial.
Mining laser. Yeah, like it's okay. Like of an opening mission. It feels like everything's kind of like I said earlier, everything's kind of rushed to you. Like all of a sudden it's like 5 minutes later you killed a couple pirates and this guy's like, here, you can take my ship. It's kind of that's fine though.
There's a theory about that because like I don't want to say that like I spoiled it and I'm not going to do spoilers, but I have a theory about that now that I've read what New Game Plus is.
I know what it is as well.
So I won't say what it is here, but based on what that is, it could kind of explain why the beginning of it is rushed.
As quick as it is.
Certain people are just like, yeah, man, it's cool. That's totally cool.
Because the thing you also have to remember is this is the first time they've ever done a New Game Plus.
Right.
They've never done that for any of their
And it's from what it is, it's like it actually sounds like it's pretty interesting.
You gotta think to yourself, like,
kind of weird.
If Oblivion or Skyrim had New Game Plus, would you want to do that first mission over again every time? Like,
would you want to relive the vault? Yeah, like no.
Do you want to relive your buddy? Hey, wake up. No. I don't think I want to see that every time.
Oh God, no. Yeah, but based on what this is, like, obviously you have to get to that point and do the New Game Plus loop. But I feel like maybe that will somewhat feel like it makes more sense as you play the game over and over again.
So I've played a little bit on PC. I've primarily played on the Series X. And you probably won't be able to really speak to this because you played in a streaming capacity. So the 30 frames is not even as I predicted. Like nobody's even talking about that really.
No,
like it's like Zelda, where like before that I was like, maybe it will. No, it's fine. I will say like playing it on PC, running it a little bit higher. You can run at a higher frame rate there. I mean, it's fine, but I'm also the kind of person like I work at a desk 8 hours a day. I don't want to sit at my computer desk for another couple hours playing a game.
For sure.
So if I can sit on the couch, I would rather do that. But I don't feel like I lose anything going over to the Xbox. I also don't have a 4K PC monitor. It's 2K, so it definitely looks sharper on an OLED or even the TV in the office here. The other thing I'll say, because this hasn't really been a thing with the other Bethesda games, but like And that was why I wanted to test that opening day or whatever day the early access started. Like the cloud saving feature of just like, hey, I started this on PC, I'm going to go play on my Xbox, worked flawlessly. And this is a Bethesda game where you're going to have like a lot of save. Because I don't know if you're like me, I just save. I don't save over saves.
I don't either. Yeah, I have a ton of saves already, and I
will say, like,
couple hours.
Syncing my saves between Xboxes has started to take a little bit longer, but it's not what it used to be. Like, I remember going between my system and a friend's to play Fallout, syncing like 150 saves took like an hour.
Yep.
So it doesn't seem like that, anymore. At least it's like a couple minutes at that. But so I played like roughly 2 hours on PC. That's where I sat and fine tuned your character actually, because I had the keyboard and mouse, so I was able to do all the sliders. And like, all right, yeah. But then I quickly kicked it over to Xbox. I really haven't looked back on like trying to load it up on PC. I mean, it's everything that I want out of this type of game or RPG. Like the exploration, like the more I play, the more I'm like, okay, it does have kind of the big stuff that I'm looking for. I told you, like, I bumbled into a planet where I think what the planet is used for specifically is you can change your character's appearance and everything there, but it's done in almost this like cult-like way. So like the planet is really weird. Like when you land there, it's called something Paradiso. And, like, I just bumbled there because I was like, what's on this planet? Because I had to fly to this specific system so it would open up the next one that I was going to.
Okay.
And I happened to see the planet. I'm like, I'll just land here and see what's going on because it's kind of a tropical environment. So I went in there and I just kind of bumbled into this office where people are just waiting. And then the lady went through everything about how I can change myself cosmetically. But, like, it's like the way they do it's almost kind of creepy. And then they're like, or you can also go, like, check out our resort. And it's, like, done really weird. So I went and talked to somebody at the resort. And it's like that, like, very weird, like, hey, you should come stay here. Nothing weird's going on. Man.
Yeah,
like, it's like that. Yeah, so there's something going on there. But I was like, I got to get back on the mission I'm doing. So the mission I did, because it's out there now, so I don't think it's like a major spoiler, but it's probably the coolest mission I've seen in the game. So it gives you access to a pretty good suit, although there is I'm sure you've seen the glitch.
I got it.
You can get the best. I did it too.
I did it too.
But so there's a mission you can get, and I don't even remember how I think it's in the first mission. You pick up like a recording or something, and it unlocks this mission for the Mantis. I don't know if you got that.
No, I didn't see that.
So the Mantis in this universe is kind of like a vigilante, like Batman type character that fights bounty hunters or spacers or whatever they're scoundrels, whatever they're called, like my character.
Yeah.
So it's the way that it's presented. It's a woman, and it's kind of her recording to her son, like, hey, you know what? Sorry, it's I've passed. You can come to this planet and find the stuff that I've left behind, basically, kind of thing. So you go to this planet. There's a big fucking war going on where people are trying to blast into this base. And I'm like, all right, so you blast your way in, and then you fight a lot of people. And it becomes apparent as you get further and further into it, there's booby traps, there's a puzzle, and everything. There's a lot of work to get into this place.
Sure, yeah.
This person, like I said, was like a Batman-type character, and she was leaving the mantle and her ship and everything to, like, her son, who's kind of a piece of garbage. And that person, like, I don't know if they're not there or they're just dead. Like, they clearly never made it, because you pick up recordings of them trying to make it there. But the result of that mission is you get that suit and you get that spaceship. So that's the ship that I ride now. It's called, like, the Razor Leaf or something. But, like, she literally has, like, a bat cave that has all this stuff.
That's cool.
But unlike Batman, she's fucking killed a lot of people because there's a lot of body bags in this place. So, but it's a really cool mission. But again, that's kind of like you were saying with, walking around, because I did that mission as well, where you're walking around, you just hear that thing about the power, and then it just adds it to your thing. It was like that. Like, I just went to go do this mission. I didn't know anything. And then I read after I did the mission, because that's the thing. People are like, oh, you should go do that because you get a better spaceship right away.
Yeah.
So, the game, like, so it is, I mean, it's well documented, like, id Software helped with the shooting. I think it does show in the game, like, the shooting is a lot more fluid than, say, Fallout. But again, the difference there is Fallout. The whole point of shooting in that game was VATS mode, so you're slowing it down and picking. This is not like that, so I think they needed that help to make more of a shooter, because that's not what Bethesda. They're not looking to make. We
talked about
looking to make an RPG.
Four passes as a shooter, like you can shoot from the hip and stuff, but that is not how the game is designed. 3 is you cannot play that game as a shooter, like almost at all. Like it is not designed for that. So
no, not at all. And again, like I said, my gripes with it so far are very minor. It's the clunkiness of the menus. It's the me picking at tiny stuff that could be fixed. Like I'm not even like, and I was already prepared for it going in. I knew about the you're not going to fly your ship into the atmosphere of this planet. I already knew that, so that didn't bother me.
I did too, but it's just I still think it's weird how they decided to do it. Like we could have. It's
weird because and that's the map problem. Like you have a map that works essentially like Mass Effect when you're in your spaceship to pick planets and stuff to go to. But then when you get on that planet and you get the local map, it's trash. It doesn't help you at all. And that's one of the biggest downfalls.
And if I can only land at like 3 or 4 different places on the planet, then just give me a list of the places I can do it and let me pick from the list.
You can. Yeah. So unless it's a body of water, you can land wherever you want.
But you know what? But like obviously, like these are the 4 places you could go. Like if I know I need to go here quickly, just let me pick that as a thing and hit go.
For sure. But yeah, my gripes with it are very few and far between so far.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to spend a lot more time with it. I do also think it's telling, like, you know, we're talking about how it's easy to lose yourself in the game because, like, it doesn't seem like the achievements are very hard to obtain in this game, but they're all still at like a rare percentage because I think that's what happens. I think people load it up and they go, "Oh, what's this thing over here?" And like 5 hours later, it's like, "Oh, this has nothing to do with what this main quest is."
No.
I've done more of the main quest, obviously, than you have. So I've collected a lot more of those artifacts, and now it's getting to the point where it's like, oh, there are different powers you can get. And like I said, I only have the one so far, but I have 2 missions unlocked right now that will get you more of them.
Yeah.
And they're kind of handled kind of like how you would get powers in Skyrim. You use the left bumper, right bumper at the same time.
Okay.
But you can only have one on at a given time.
Sure.
So
yeah, I think overall, I think so far, I think it does a pretty good job of living up to like the hype it created for itself. Like this is the game that I thought it was going to be. You know, obviously a lot of the stuff you see online is people dumping on it for a variety of reasons, but the number one being that like it's a PlayStation versus Microsoft thing at this point. And
it is.
I can't believe they would make this exclusive. It's like they were going to. Like they always were going to. I still don't think Elder Scrolls 6 will be, just because
I don't think
that's
so
established.
But that's established.
Could.
The only reason why I would argue against it is because I think it always was going to be multi-platform when they first got Bethesda.
Yeah.
And then after all the fuckery of Activision, I could see them going, not anymore. So,
or timed exclusivity might.
But at the same time, if Microsoft is smart, which they are, what matters the most? The bottom line, money.
Yeah,
and they're going to print money with Elder Scrolls.
This was meant to sell. Starfield is meant to sell Xboxes and Game Pass, and ES6 is meant to make money. That's it.
I will say, I was at I think it was Walmart yesterday. I watched a guy buying a copy of the game for Xbox.
Yeah,
so. People are just buying it. It's not everybody just playing it on Game Pass.
No,
so
it's a game that's worth buying. If you're not a Game Pass member, it is worth buying. You should be a Game Pass member, but if you're not,
that's the other argument I would make is like I think for the first time for a first party game since Game Pass has been available, this is the first one I could say easily like. You could go out and buy this game. If you don't want to have Game Pass, then be fine.
Yep.
Whereas, like, a lot of these first-party Microsoft games come out, it's like, you can just have Game Pass.
Yep.
So, I think that's the smartest thing here. So
for sure.
I will have much more to say about Starfield the next time we record, because I'll have a lot more of it under my belt.
Yep.
I plan on diving a lot into it. I've got some vacation time next week, so I'm playing a lot of it. The only other game that I've played, I'll quickly talk about it, is Armored Core 6. I have also played Armored Core 6. I have not played. I'll preface this by saying I've not played an Armored Core since like 1 and 2.
Oh yeah.
I didn't play any of the 360 ones, even though I own all of them except one of them. And they're all. And the thing now is like it was always one of those games, the one that I don't own, where I'm like, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. And now that they brought this series back, it's like $100 game.
Oh wow.
For the 360 because everybody wants to get the whole series. It's awesome. The little bit I've played of it, I've put about 5-6 hours into it. I had very little bit of time to play this, and then I made that early access decision for Starfield, so that kind of just like put Armored Core on the shelf, which is fine. Like that game's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But the bit I've played of it, it very much is. It does have that difficulty level like Dark Souls, but it is not Dark Souls. It is more about as classic Armored Core is like. You're going to spend a lot of time in the garage fine-tuning your mech. And the game is about, like, okay, you get up to this boss in this mission, and, oh, man, this guy kicked my ass. Well, now I need to go back into the garage and decide what one of my 100 different weapons I have is going to be the best to take on this specific boss. So it's that kind of challenge versus Dark Souls is just, okay, let me go grind levels for a couple hours. Now I can beat this boss.
So with the mech, you have to put it in the shop to like alter the weapons to go into that mission.
It's like the way the game's structured, like when it opens, there's kind of like an intro mission. The story of the one thing I'll say is the story of the game is lackluster. Gotcha. It is what it is. You're like a nameless prisoner that is basically kind of out on parole, working for some shadow corporation kind of a thing. It's whatever. It's not a great story. But it's not the point of the game for an Armored Core. But you work for this like company, and then once you get through the tutorial, you just do missions for this company, and they keep hiring you. And so the menu system of the game, or like the hub or whatever, that is the garage where you can do, there are tutorials you can do to learn different tricks. After certain missions, you'll unlock, you get money, obviously you're getting paid for the missions you go on, and then you can unlock different weapons, different armor and whatnot for your mech. So you're constantly upgrading it, and everything. It does have some sort of online component. I did not check that out. I probably will never check that out because I assume it's PvP, and like, that's a PvP mech, like, no, that's not for me.
Do you use, or do they use like skins, or can you alter your mech how you want to?
So you can actually go as far as to like create your own designs on a computer, like through Photoshop, and upload them through like their website and download them onto your system. Like they go hard in this one.
That's pretty dope.
That's pretty cool. And I'm sure that also lends itself to like whatever PvP mode it has, because I'm sure you'll see wild shit people have created for their mechs. But you do get different body pieces and stuff for your mech too. You can colorize the mech however you want. Like there's a insane color palette for it. But there are different like styles of like head pieces, chest pieces, legs, and then your arms are obviously going to constantly change depending on what weapon. You have. Like right now, I have a sword in one hand and I think it's a pistol. I enjoyed the little bit I played. I was like, this is really good. This will be my like one of my like end of the year. I'll run through it when I don't have anything else to play, because it is the worst time to put anything else right now. Like anytime you put out like a Bethesda RPG, like you don't want to put anything else around it. So I'm glad they picked September. And it's going to be, that's the other reason why I want to put a bunch of time into Starfield next week. We got Mortal Kombat coming out. So, but Armored Core, like the 5-6 hours I played, I enjoy what I played of it, but that's very much going to be a end of the year game for me. Once everything else is out, I'll run through it, but it's good. I've enjoyed my time. So, Dan, you've played another big hot release. This past week that you want to talk about, that I want to play, but again, I'll play it later because I'm playing Starfield.
I played a very, very good game called Sea of Stars, which is I've been playing on, it's free on Plus, which is incredible. It's also on Game Pass, which is incredible because this game is worth buying. It's so good. It's an old retro inspired style like RPG.
What does it mostly resemble? As far
so there's a couple. There's a couple games. Okay. There's so Chrono Trigger is definitely one that you'll kind of get a feel of that, like in terms of like you see enemies and you go into them and then it starts the battle on the field. It also reminds me a lot of Golden Sun, which is like one of my favorite RPGs of all time.
Oh yeah,
it's a Game Boy Advance game because you have like
That's cool.
powers and stuff that you can use outside of battle. It's not a ton, but like there's powers you use outside of battle to kind of explore the little area, and there's little puzzles to solve to get to chests and all that kind of stuff. And then there's other, like, it reminds me of, Secret of Evermore and Secret of Mana, just in terms of the way it feels to play this game. It's such an amazingly good like RPG. The story is phenomenal so far. It's a little cliche, but every game is, so who cares? But you're these two kids and you have your best friend, but the two of you were born to be, these warriors to fight against this great evil, right? When you're older.
Yeah.
And when you finally show that you're ready to begin your training, you get locked away for like 10 years to do nothing but train for this thing. So how it works is one of you has moon powers and one of you has sun powers, and you are able to defeat this like ultimate evil thing like during the eclipse. You have to get to this certain point during the eclipse, and like the people who were trained before you are going to be there too, along with like the guy who trained you. You're all going to power because the only time your powers will work to defeat this thing is during this eclipse. So you set off on your little journey. Your best friend, he kind of meets up with you as you're about to leave, and he doesn't have any powers, but he's like, "I'm coming with." And they're like, and it's great because like he shows up and the gang's back together. He fights in battle too, like he's like a defensive guy, whereas the other people are like staff and sword. So you set off on your little journey, and you eventually get to this like eclipse part where you fight this big bad thing. And of course, wouldn't you know it, something happens after you beat it, which really starts the game. But that's like 8 or 10 hours in when the plot finally starts like to start, where you feel like there is a greater purpose to this. The thing about it that I guess you could complain about is the battle system can be overly complicated if you're not thinking ahead. So it is turn-based. It's like you do get to wait and like pick your turns. But things are timed. So occasionally like an enemy will get like a timer on it that says like in one turn it's going to do something. But you have an ability to like break it where it'll show you have to hit it with like a sword attack, a staff attack, and a moon attack. And depending on the combos and like abilities you do, you'll like basically knock out those tiles. And if you break it, it can't move on its next turn. Sometimes it's impossible to do what it asks, at least right now. So you're gonna get hit. So you kind of have to mitigate, like, is it worth trying to hit this enemy now, or is it worth trying to hit the other enemy so that doesn't go in 3 turns?
Okay.
There is a penalty for dying, but like if you get knocked down, you're not out. And you can like revive people, but essentially if you get knocked down, they'll come back in 2 turns with half health. So sometimes I have played where it's smarter to let someone die and let them come back in 2 turns. But if they get knocked down again, then it's 3 turns to come back. The game's not overly difficult, but it can be challenging. Those are two different concepts where I've gotten by at the end, but it's got so many like different like systems in it. Like it has a food, like a cooking aspect to it where you find recipes and you have to collect ingredients and you cook these things and they do different things, but you can only hold a certain amount of them. So you kind of have to do that. There's one of the other cool things about battle too, this is kind of out of order, but when you finally get like your 4th person, you only have 3 people in a team. You can swap anyone at any time. So
that's cool.
You could, if you want the poison person to come in, you take out one of the other people and put the poison person in. There's also a mechanic where if you attack something, like little like balls of light shoot out of it. So then you can, on your turn, you can absorb that to do a stronger attack or like an enhanced attack to do more damage or hit one of those tiles or something like that. There's a lot of like playing off and like who has to go next and should I save this for something later?
Does it for the story? Does it have voice acting or is it all text?
No, it's all text stuff. It does have weird. I think I've only seen 3 of them. Weird animated cutscenes at certain points, but they're very short.
That's
And it's for like, well, one of them is when you see like the older versions of like the people who are like the other guardians, like the older versions of the people.
Yeah.
They come out and like that's how they're introduced. It was like a sort of weird like anime cutscene. I have a pirate crew that's helping me out, and we had to go fight this like demon lady to get a coin. Like there's a whole bunch of shit that you just have to do. It's very old school RPG, but it's just I don't know, man. Like so good,
like very well and like lovingly made.
It looks
like,
incredible. It plays incredible. The music is incredible. Like the music's nothing but bangers. Every song so far is a banger. Yeah.
That's important for those.
Yeah, it is for sure. Like battle music's great, boss music's great, walking around music's great. The areas aren't huge, so you don't get lost. It's just kind of like you're running around exploring and there's a chest over here. How do I get to that kind of a thing?
Yeah.
There's some, like I said, little tiny puzzle solving. There's a lot of lore in the game if you want there to be. There's, like I said, it only really just kind of kicked into the next gear not too long ago for me, where things have changed. Like something real bad happened at this point, so now I have to do it.
It's on my short list of games that I need to get to.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so
unfortunate. Good. It was originally supposed to come out in July, so I was planning, and then they pushed it literally a couple of days before something.
But if you're like a fan of SNES era RPGs, like at all, perfect game.
Gotcha.
I don't have any complaints about it at all.
It's not like I was gonna say. It's on Steam as well, right?
It's on everything. I'm pretty sure.
I know. One of the things is that I think it's probably in the news. So talk about it at that point. I think it's sold very well too, despite being on both of these services. People are buying the shit out of this game. So I would assume at some point there'll be a physical version of it somewhere. Limited run.
I know there's a Play Asia Switch version.
Okay.
Does that count?
Maybe.
For now it does.
But yeah, it's phenomenal. It's one of my favorite games so far, and like it's one of those things too where when I was playing it a couple of nights, I was like, I'm just gonna play a little bit more and do like see what the next thing is, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
so
it's like
I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
I know that. Anything else, or does that cover what you've been
That's
playing?
pretty much it. I mean, I'm back into the baseball mode for who knows why.
Well, we're down. I mean, obviously, more the next time we record, then we're getting close to Spider-Man.
We're into Mortal Kombat. We're in Spider-Man time. We're in Mario RPG time.
Yeah. We're getting close.
Like all three
Wonder
of those
will
things.
be before it, but
like those are the next I'm gonna be playing a lot of all 3 of those.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. How about you, man? What have you been playing?
I am still playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It doesn't seem to slow down right now. Like I've gotten into matches real quickly. People disconnect from matches, but I think it's more of like the length of the match that people don't want to like. Once you die, people don't want to sit around and wait.
That was a problem with Friday the 13th, so that is.
It doesn't surprise me either. I on the other hand like to watch that kind of stuff because like
you can learn what other people are doing.
Exactly. So it's pretty cool. I've been playing with another friend of mine, so me and him link up and we'll play it a couple rounds every night. It's still a lot of fun. It's entertaining. It's just something different to be playing aside from normally playing anything else. There is a lot of shit talking that happens inside of it.
That doesn't surprise me.
No,
I loaded into one match and there was these kids and they were like, I'll give you like $100 if you let me live. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. And then like we loaded up into the game and like 5 minutes they were already done. Like they had escaped. And I was like, how the hell did they manage that? And I was like, I guess they've been playing like Cutthroat for quite some time right now, but all in all, like it's a fun experience. It's fun to see how everybody kind of gets out and how you can honestly use, like, if you're a victim, you can use the other victims to your advantage. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I really enjoy of it. The other day, I forgot what it was, but I think somebody opened the gate and I was like standing in a bush right next to it. And I thought they were going to go through and I was going to run after them. But like once they opened the door, somebody just came and attacked them. So as they were getting attacked, I just bolted. I was like, nope, sorry.
That was always a good tactic in Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You could down somebody and just kind of chill by that area, wait for somebody else to come try and help them, and then you get at least 2 people out.
There you go.
Away, so.
But yeah, it's still a lot of fun. It hasn't slowed down any, which is nice to see because, you know, like Dead by Daylight, like we've talked about, has kind of cornered the market on that.
You know, and it's surprising too because they just had that Alien DLC come up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that game hasn't missed a beat or slowed down at all.
There's so much content for that.
It's because that's why I won't get stuff for it. Yeah,
The big reasons why, because like that should be my game. Like of all these, the reason I won't get involved is number one, it has to be impossible to get into that game at this point because everybody knows what they're doing. Like, people are going to be on point, just like any other long-standing online game. Number two, the money. Like, how much money I would have to spend to get all that, because I would want all of that content.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and you know, there's not like a season pass. Yeah. You have to buy everybody individually.
Every once in a while, like, Xbox will run one of those DLC sales, but even still, if you add it all up, it's still a chunk of change. Like, you're paying for a full video game at that point on a sale.
Yeah.
So, to get all that content. So, like, Nicolas Cage is in that game now as himself. Like... Again, it is a game for me that I should be more into, but I remember at the time it came out, before they did all these deals and it became what it is, it was just kind of Friday the 13th with a generic killer.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, it took off because I think they started getting all these marketing deals to bring them all to do that. So, I mean, again, my hat's off too, because I think it's a tremendous idea for a video game, but I can't.
Oh yeah,
the barrier of entry is too.
Oh,
Texas
for sure.
Chainsaw at some point I do want to look at. It's just again worst time possible for me to put that kind of game.
Yeah. So. Well, I will tell you, it's a lot of fun. Playing by yourself or squatting up and playing with people is a lot of fun too. So I mean, however you decide, if you ever decide to play that game, or if anybody out there listening is playing that game, like give it an opportunity. It's on Game Pass right now. Like, just try it out. I think you'll have.
It will be on Game Pass for most Game Pass games. Usually stick around for a year, unless it's like unless it's Rockstar and GTA where they like to throw it and take it off.
Yeah, for sure. Other than that, I decided, kind of like foreboding the news, but with the new PS Plus hike, since I'll be losing a lot of the PS Plus games that I have on my PlayStation, I decided to start trying to run through them. And I downloaded a Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Yeah, so they gave that out like maybe 2-3 months ago.
Yeah, and it's what you expect out of a Call of Duty game. It's just a bunch of running and shooting. But I think it was what I needed to kind of break up everything else that I had been playing and couldn't stay focused on. So I'm pretty sure I'm near the end of it. I was trying to finish it up this morning and kind of then I had to go to the grocery store.
Is that Woods guy in this one?
No.
Okay.
So it's
I know it's obviously set during the Cold War era.
Yeah, it's weird because like at one point you kind of get to give your character a little bit of different characteristics and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I really don't feel like it affects anything gameplay wise. I think it's just something so people could be like, well, Call of Duty lets you like characterize your person now, so it feels
that you'll
different.
Never actually look at.
Yeah, because like I can't imagine. Like I picked like 2 of like the generic classes. I really can't remember, but I really don't see how you could play that game any other way. Like I don't see how you can play Call of Duty sneakily, because like every mission, it's like you're like, go here, do this. Shit falls apart, and you just gotta blow.
You might be sneaking for the opening 5 minutes, but then something stupid will happen, or your buddy will step on a mine or something.
Yeah,
like shit
exactly.
will pop off. It's over. It doesn't matter. So,
but I mean, for what it is, like you said, got it for PS Plus. Decided to play it. It's not horrible. It's nice to kind of break up everything else.
That was where I checked out, because I think that was the one that came out after the Modern Warfare remake. Where like I didn't dislike. I actually thought that was one of the better ones. But then for whatever reason that year, I had like a mental note when the systems came out, like, oh, maybe I'll check out that Call of Duty, and then I just never did. And then it became the next year, and then the next year, and I was just like, I don't really.
Call of Duty
became for me, I like the campaigns. I'm one of the weird people that enjoys that more.
Same.
And I feel like in recent years, the campaigns have become less and less relevant because they know they don't have to put any effort into that part of the game.
Agreed. I think for me, the only reason I like playing campaign is because I want to see how many headshots I can get per each map that I'm doing. Because that's like my ultimate goal, is just to pop everybody off in the head. And if they're ducking behind a box, how close can I get it to them without it going over? Like, I set like mini goals for myself when I'm playing that game. So, but yeah, I definitely think I'm at the end of it. I like got to the point where I was looking for the big boss, and he kind of escaped. So I can't imagine there's much more, like another 20, 30 minutes of that game.
Yeah, those campaigns are always really short.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And then I downloaded, so I've been seeing this game on my phone, on the mobile phone, called Souls. I don't know if you guys have seen anything on it.
No.
So I'm going to try and get into it this weekend if I can. But it's been like, for some reason, like on all of my like feeds, it's just been popping up, and I'm like, I never even looked at this game, never even talked about this.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, I barely play my mobile phone anymore, so I was just like, but I downloaded it, and I was like, you know what? Let's just give it a shot. It looks interesting, so maybe next week I'll be talking about that. Yeah, that's it for me.
Well, we can jump into the news here. There's a bit of news. Definitely a bit of news this week. So first thing that I put in here, I just thought this was interesting. And I'll say, this is not the only type of story like this we'll be talking about this week. Because there's another one that's a little more prominent.
Some are by choice.
But there was a recently released game. It actually is interesting because I looked into the past here of this studio. There was I know what it is. So, the studio behind Shadow Tactics, which I do actually own a copy of that physically, and Desperados 3, which I think came out last year, which is like it's like a strategy. It's like one of those strategy, like isometric, but it's a Western.
Yeah.
They had recently a new game come out called Shadow Gambit.
Yeah, that game looks really cool.
It looks really cool. Been getting really good reviews, but the developer is shutting down.
Yeah,
which is a bummer.
They basically released it and said we're
out.
We're done.
But it's different.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly here, and I'm looking at it, they are shutting the studio down themselves. They aren't getting bought out or anything like that.
No,
it's just
they said they've been doing it for 15 years, and we're gonna find something else to do. But that game actually looks really good. I'm interested to try it.
It does. I'm interested in trying it.
I think it's like $35, though, so I'm kind of...
It's on my wish list, so I'll wait till it's on sale. But I would definitely check it out.
Yeah.
So, not the only studio closure news article we'll be talking about.
By choice.
That one at least by choice, so not the worst thing to read. The Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remasters have been delayed until 2024, which is fine.
Sure.
Like, I don't need those right now.
Wasn't playing them now anyway, so that's fine.
No, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, it's a bummer.
I'm really looking forward to them. I think they look great, but that's the kind of thing where I'll wait till it comes out and then I'll wait for it to go on sale. Is what I'll do.
Yeah.
I threw this in here because I thought it was interesting. A Sony veteran has become Xbox's new director of partnerships in Japan. So they've been looking for kind of a liaison in Japan to help them grow Xbox in Japan a little bit more. I mean, the one thing I'll say is they've done better this generation in Japan than I think they've ever done, which is interesting.
They're still trying,
and they're still trying. And
to be fair, they tried in
the Square relationship is
they
big,
tried in the 360 era, like they really did.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Final Fantasy 11 is
Lost
on Xbox
Odyssey.
360 for Christ's sake. But when it came to the Xbox One, it was really kind of, it seemed like an afterthought, and they really just didn't care, or not care, but weren't making it a priority.
It wasn't a priority, and I think a lot of people that hadn't already jumped ship because of the horrible reveal of the Xbox One did kind of jump ship when it's like, hey, I want to play all these cool JRPGs that are coming out on PlayStation, but coming to the Xbox. Yeah. So,
and I think they finally realize now that like we kind of do need that audience out here too. Yeah.
So this goes along with that. So next story I put in here, which I think is interesting. So Night Dive Studios, which are the people that they've done a lot of what you would now refer to as the boomer shooter remasters. Mm-hmm. They did Quake 1, they did Quake 2. They're doing Rise of the Triad, which comes out at the end of this month. It's crazy. Awesome.
Yeah,
I will 100% get that. They want to remake a more recent game. They want to redo The Darkness from 2007, crazy. Which I am 110% in. That game ruled. Both of them. I like both of them.
I didn't like 2 as much as 1. But
2 is more straightforward.
Yeah, well, because 1 was more interesting because it was something new.
1 was a Starbreeze studio game,
but
2 is not.
It was a new concept.
Clearly shows.
Yeah, it was like
it was a new concept. It was more open because that Starbreeze Studio is the same people that made. I know you don't care for those movies, but the Reddit games, which say what you will about the movies, those games were very interesting and kind of ahead of their time.
Yeah.
The Darkness kind of did some of that stuff as well, so I would be all down for a remake.
That's just such a
weird thing to
guess in 50 years that The Darkness could potentially be remade. That's such a weird thing, but it's a cool thing to happen if it does.
It is. It's a very cool concept because they took it from a comic book. So
yeah, but like the game, it was an interesting game to play. Like the powers and stuff controlled well. Like remember that was one of those first games ever where it's like just sit on the couch and watch this movie. Okay, I'll do that. No problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With obviously the release of Starfield and Todd Howard making the rounds because he's putting his head up for air for the first time in like a year. People obviously are asking him about next things like Elder Scrolls 6 questions, but the other big thing they will constantly keep asking about is the Indiana Jones game. So I'm
interested in.
He's given a brief update, but from the sounds of what he has said, they're halfway done, or they're at the halfway point of what they're doing with that game.
Well,
which honestly would put it at probably next fall.
Maybe a little bit after that, but
maybe a little bit after.
But my thought is if they're half done, they can finally start showing the game.
I will say this:
right? Like,
you will see that game at the next Xbox conference next year. Without question.
Maybe I get a little taste at the Game Awards.
Maybe I can see a trailer where you hear the music and you see the whip crack, shadow,
and I want to see him punch somebody, and then just like the shadow.
And maybe you get the title of it.
Yeah, and then it just says 2025 underneath it.
I could see it.
I will help them make that trailer if that's how it needs to be done. I'll do it.
Call Dan up. He'll tell you how.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what it needs to be.
We'll get into the big, huge topic of this week, the explosive, in many ways, very poor consumer, tone deaf towards consumer decision Sony has made to raise the price of PlayStation Plus, all 3 tiers.
Idiots.
It's
putting a start date on it.
Unbelievable. It started 2 days ago.
It started the day that your direct competitor, who has a direct competing service, puts out arguably one of the biggest games of the year. So,
that seems calculated, doesn't it?
But here's the other thing: is it natural to expect a price increase because every subscription service is doing it? And I'm not talking about games.
Everything is going crazy right now.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I got an email last night that Hulu is going up $5.
Good,
because they're owned by Disney. They're doing it conveniently the same day as Disney Plus is going up. So everybody is doing it because everybody is hemorrhaging money right now because of the writer's strike. But you can't really make that argument with video games, but that actually might also happen with the writers in the video game space.
It's coming.
Too.
Yep.
But anyways, I think it would have been an easier pill to swallow, but they went for the extreme with how much. So roughly between all three tiers, it's between 30 to 35% of an increase. So, for example, here, the basic tier, if you just want to play online and have cloud saves and the Game Pass, the PlayStation Plus monthly games that they give you, that is going from 60 a year to 80.
That is absurd.
So it is now more expensive than one video game purchase a year to pay to play online.
Right. All because they want to force you. All because they want to force these people to pay for the ability to download, get 2 free games a month that they may not even want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The middle tier is going. What is it?
Extra.
It's $30, I believe. Yeah, extra is what it's called, which is like the Game Pass equivalent. The only thing that's in the tier above it is you get the PS1 classics and the game trials.
Right.
Those are locked behind that one. The middle tier. What is the middle tier right now? Isn't it one?
I thought it was 100.
Yeah, I thought so too.
No, I thought it was 100.
It's going to 135. That I know. So maybe you are right. Maybe it's 100. It's going up 35.
Jeez.
And then the big tier I know, which is the premium, which gives you, like we said, the PS1 games and the trials, along with everything at the other tiers. That is going from $120 a year to $160 a year.
That's insane, man.
Unbelievable.
The way this was announced was we can dig into how poorly it was announced, because they threw it out as their monthly blog post for what the games in September are going to be, which one of them is the dreadful, awful Saints Row reboot from 2022. The other game is what, Black Desert Online, so a PS4 MMO.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other game is a critically panned open world garbage game.
Yeah. So you have those 3 games, and then at the bottom of the press release, it's just like, oh, by the way, and then it goes through that, in a smaller font. I'll also point out than
That's
the
so
other.
stupid.
And then it's the double gut kick of like, oh, hey, we're going to do this. Also, it starts next week. Also, if you want to stack time, you better make that decision before September 6th, because on September 6th, that conversion ratio is also going to change.
Correct. The conversion rate. So, if you go out to the store right now and buy a 1 year, it's not worth a year anymore.
It's like 9 months.
It's 9 months now. Yeah.
Jeez.
The thing that irks me the most about this is they do it under the guise of, we need more money to provide you with better service and games.
When you're
Excuse me, what? What are you talking about?
I mean, maybe that's why they chose this month, because they're showing you, hey, we have Saints Row. Do you want something better than Saints Row? You know what I mean? But it's very bad. Especially, it's the worst time of year to do it. Again, you're going against your direct competition, who did also just have a price hike that was what, I think $1, $2. It was very minimal.
33%.
No.
Right.
So it's just.
Well, also remember,
it is incredibly toned down.
Was it last year? Microsoft tried to double the price, and people
did.
went
within half a day.
And then
they had to go back.
You know what? That's our bet.
Yeah, and Sony they went full steam ahead and did it. It's over.
$80 just to be able to play online. Playing online should be free. We've talked about it.
At this point, it should be
playing
free.
Online should be a free option. You want games with your service?
I will also roll out there that I don't think cloud save should be hidden behind a paywall, because on the Microsoft side,
not on somebody else. Yeah,
exactly. If you let your subscription expire on the Xbox and you decide to go out and buy another one, all that cloud shit still works.
Yep.
To bring all your saves over. You don't have to have a gold subscription or a Game Pass subscription, whatever. What is it called now? The basic ones, what, like Game Pass
Core, and then Ultimate.
Yeah. So, but you don't have to have that to just get access to cloud saves.
I will tell you this PlayStation thing. I've never downgraded a subscription so fast in my life. As soon as I was able to confirm that downgrading my thing didn't take place until the day it expired, which for me is in mid-November. As soon as it said like, oh yeah, it'll be fine up until that point, at which point it will renew for, I'm just doing standard now. I don't care. I need to be able to play online, which is terrible, but I need it. I've never downgraded something so fast in my life. Like I went there and immediately canceled. And then of course I get the pathetic email from them where it's, are you sure you want to cancel? Yeah. We noticed you canceled. Yeah, sure did. And I hope, and like the thing about this too, that is crazy is this has been out for weeks now. And obviously everybody's shitting on it everywhere. They haven't said a single word about it.
No, they won't.
They haven't defended it. They haven't come out and said, we understand. No, nothing. They are ignoring it.
We're in mid to late 2000s Sony territory. Actually arrogant again, and they know they're number one.
We're in late PS2 era Sony.
Yeah. Where it's going to take something very drastic to knock them down and see the light.
It will take a PS3-esque failure, which because they refuse to admit when things don't do well anymore. Like at least with PS3, they kind of understood in the beginning, and they worked on that for years during that generation to fix it, and then the PS4 saved it. But they, like PSVR 2, they're never going to admit that failed. The Portal, they'll never admit the Portal failed. Now the Portal looks like even more of a joke.
This does not help that shit, right? At all.
Not that it could play any of this shit anyway, but like, even if it could, it'd be $160 a year to do it. Like, it's unbelievable. We're back to shit Sony. Like, we're straight back in that market, and they have a history of doing it, and so none of us should be surprised.
Not at all.
They're blatantly anti-consumer, and all they do is brag about like themselves. But I would like to see how many things are canceled. I think part of the reason they did it with a week and a half to go was they're hoping people won't cancel it, or they're hoping they'll get renewals.
That has to be the only reason why they did it in such a short window, right? Mm-hmm. Because even with the game, even with the Game Pass stuff, they announced it well in advance. Or when they were doing the hey, Xbox Live Gold is ending, that was a month?
They gave you a month lead time.
Yeah. They let you know. Whereas this is just hey man, in literally less than a week, this is changing. I got the email too. I have to look and see what the date is, but yeah, I also I as someone who has that service and did it to play Stray.
Yep.
And now I if I ever want to play that again,
I used it quite a bit. To be fair, I ended up using it more than I thought I would, just to try stuff here and there. I could care less that it's going away.
Not at that.
Absolutely don't care about it at all.
I have the same feeling about it that I had earlier this year when Netflix did all their bullshit, and I said, "Well, I'm out." Whereas, I don't really miss Netflix.
Well, here's the other argument. It's you're doing this price increase and claiming it's going to be to get me better stuff and afford the cost of that. Great.
October better look pretty good.
That's great. Are you gonna put Spider-Man 2 on it day one? No.
Yeah.
Because Starfield just came out on Game Pass day one, the same day you raised the price.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what. So that was the thing. It's they did it the same day.
You're not even directly competitive to the equal service, and now you want to raise your price. God of War's not on there.
Yeah, the most recent one, which it'll be a year in November.
But still, God of War's not on there. I've said this before. Baseball is not on there.
Which is the most
last year's baseball is not on there. The year before its baseball is not on there.
But you try
those are free. Baseball. Those are free for you to put on there because if anyone plays them, it's worth it to you. But your direct competitor has it on there. What insane. The fuck is your problem? I know what their problem is. The problem is Jim Ryan would spit on you if he saw you in public. That's how much he does not care about you.
He doesn't care.
Phil Spencer would shake your hand.
Yeah.
And then maybe spit
talk
on
to you about Starfield.
But
he'd probably talk to you about Starfield.
He'd want to talk to you about Starfield. Jim Ryan doesn't even know, aside from it not being on PlayStation, he doesn't even know what Starfield is.
No. The only game that man knows of existence is Call of Duty.
Yeah. Apparently.
because that shows him the money. So, boy, no, it's awful all around. And like I'm exactly like you were. Like I was the same boat of like I'm just gonna not pay for that bigger tier because you at least used it. I used it a few times to play a couple things, but it's not worth it.
Well, mine cancels in January, so I ain't worried about it.
Go cancel it now, though.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Cancel it now so you don't forget. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I was most afraid of is forgetting and getting charged $160.
Yeah. I will tell you too. Like to try and refund that is a nightmare.
Is it even possible?
Platform. It's a lot. It's a very long phone call.
Oh boy.
Let's put it that way. So I had to refund. I refunded. Granted, this was Microsoft, but I refunded some digital purchase once. It was a very long. It was, to be fair, it was not a phone call. It was a chat session, but it was a very long chat session. So I'm just like, it was one of those, like, I think it was, now it's a little bit different because they kind of have adopted the Steam rule of like, if you use it under 2 hours, but you can only do so many a year. I think it's like 2 or 3. It's a low number.
You know, sometimes a mistake is made when you buy something.
Yeah, so. No, and that is perfectly fair. And I think the way Steam handles it is fair as well.
Right. Steam, they challenge you to speed run the game. That's all it is.
Next news article, we got an email, so I'll read it first. This email comes from Grant from Blunder, Texas. So that's right. Howdy, guys. I know Kyle was at least very vocal last year on how awful Saints Row was, but what do you think about Volition completely shutting down? So, as we mentioned before, that is the other studio that is shutting down. Obviously, this is a little bit different. This isn't, they didn't make the decision to be shut down. Embracer Group is shutting them down. We've talked. I mean, I've talked at great length of how massive of a failure Saints Row was.
You know what's funny is now that it's free, I'm going to play it. It's free.
I mean, here's the thing I'll say. Apparently, there's been a lot of work put into it.
It's been patched quite a
so
bit.
I would be curious. I would be curious now what your impression of it is, being a fully patched and I would assume hopefully working game.
From what I've read, it seems like it is now, which is why I was intrigued to play it for free. But then this news came out, and it just made me laugh. It made me think of the saying, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. You made some shitty games, and now you don't exist anymore. Sorry. You
got away from Saints Row. You made the G.I. Joe game.
Terrible.
Agents of Mayhem,
I platinumed that game, and it's
not
terrible.
Great. And then you went underground for years, rebooting Saints Row into what this is, which is not good. And I gave it this thing, like, I gave it a chance. I didn't buy into all the people that were giving it shit when it first got announced. I was like, it's Saints Row. It's like, how bad can it really, No, it's so devoid of what Saints Row was, which was just pure fun.
Right.
So, and it's not good. So, I mean, it's a shame. I think the biggest shame, at least for me, is like, they are a studio that's out of Champaign, Illinois, so like they're not very local to us, but they're Southern Illinois. And there's not a lot of studios in the Midwest, it's mostly California. So it's going to be hard for a lot of those people to get jobs where they're going to have to relocate.
Well, I think
because
I can't say from too much like knowledge, but I think a lot of game development, there's still a lot of room for like independent, like work from home, remote, like your contracted stuff with the way certain teams are built. But I mean, realistically, moving is probably is something you'd have to consider.
So, I mean, again, it's a bummer for the people involved. It's a studio that's been around for 30 years. I mean, they also did Red Faction, which I enjoyed.
I love Red Faction.
Well.
Yeah.
What was it? Gorilla was good. That Armageddon one that wasn't as good.
They're still fun.
Still a decent game.
Yeah, they're fun.
It was still fun. And the fact that those universes were tied together was fun.
That was cool.
So
there's a lot of like good things you could say, but when you think about it, like all that good stuff was 10 years ago. You know what? They
very much fit into that category that doesn't really exist anymore, which is B-level games. It was
Right.
double A, not triple A, and I think they really did think that they were going to turn Saints Row into a triple A game with this new one, and it just
I think another reason a lot of this fell apart is obviously like the Embracer Group didn't get that Saudi money, so it's like, is it worth even, like, if we'd gotten the $2 billion or whatever, maybe we could have kept them alive. But if Saints Row isn't going to sell, what are your plans for the future? Well, we don't really have any. Then it's like, forget it, kind of a thing.
So that being said, with the studio shut down, Embracer Group is retaining Saints Row and Red Faction IP.
I mean, so obviously they're going to, but they own it.
But they're gonna put these on ice, though. You're not going to see next year all of a sudden, hey, we're making a new Saints Row. Like, it's not.
I'd be shocked if we ever got another Red Faction title.
You don't think we ever get another Red Faction?
No, Saints Row, there's room for it, but you'd have to. I don't know. It's tainted now, but we've talked about it in the past. Like 4 was kind of like 4's okay, but where are we going from here? And so when they said they were rebooting it, okay, that's the best way you could do it. But you needed to reboot it in the same like existing universe, because Saints. If you go all the way back, like Saints Row 1, I don't know about you, like Saints Row 1 is not a good game. It's a San Andreas clone. It's a bad version of that game.
It had some interesting things that it did, but it's not a great game.
And then 2 kind of cleaned it up, and then 3 they finally said fuck it, and they made like an incredibly fun co-op experience.
I will say there is a faction of fans that love 2 and do not like what happened after that. But most people think 3 is the pinnacle of that.
It is.
2 is very good though. Like 2 is a good balance of the humor, but it still has some of the seriousness. 3 just kind of went all out with the bonkers, and then they went a little. I wouldn't say too far, but they went as full on as they could. By the time 3 came out,
3 had to compete with Grand Theft Auto 5. So it had to be different, because Saints Row 1 again is just trying to be a Grand Theft Auto game. Saints Row 2 is like towing the line of, well, GTA 4 has been out for a while. We can make this and be a little bit different, a little more like gang style thing. But then GTA 5 comes out and it's like, well, shit, we can't be anywhere close to it. We have to do something different.
Yeah. So they went in the wacky route.
But now with this newer one, if based on you and what other people said, they tried to go back. They tried to make it a little more.
No, there's definitely humor in it. It's just it's current day humor, which I don't think works all the time.
Yeah.
So, as far as I want to get into that, but it doesn't work, and a lot of it too is like it tries to erase its past, and it doesn't embrace its heritage very well. Like you couldn't even put a mention of Johnny Gat in the game. Like
he is that serious.
He's not in it at all. Like you couldn't even do like a statue or like some little nod, like a weapon or anything. Nothing. There's no mention about anything. I think they mentioned Stillwater once, or whatever the name is. Steelport, Stillwater, whatever the name is. I think they mentioned it like one time.
Weird.
That's it. It's very bizarre. So. It's for that studio and those people, it sucks, but at the same time, I'm not surprised that is one of the studios Embracer Group is choosing to close after that Sony deal fell through. It's a very easy target to look at and go, you guys made a massively disappointing and unsuccessful game on the heels of another game that didn't sell very well. So I get why they did it. I put this in here more because it's one of our 2, eye roll stories of the week. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which seems like it's been in development forever, was on ice for a while. Apparently it is back. On track for a release next year with a new developer. It's the developer, the Chinese Room, so it's the people that made Amnesia, Machine Pigs. They also made that Everybody's Gone to the Rapture game. Very odd developer to make Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, but hey, they're promising showing footage of it in January with it being out by fall next year. So
sure.
Here's the thing. I've never played the original. I've heard a lot of people talk very highly of it. It's a very hard game today. to sit down and play because there's only, it's on PC, that's it.
Right.
And it's, a pre-Steam era PC.
It's an old game.
So,
yeah.
You had to have discs. I actually own a physical copy of this. At some point, one of the many trips we took to Half Price Books, they had it for like $5. So I have a physical PC
that's a cool
copy.
thing to get for $5. Yeah.
But yeah, I've never played. I've always wanted to. I've watched bits and pieces of it like on YouTube. It seems like a really cool game. I was excited at one point to play this. I now put this in the category of another game that we'll talk about later in the news. It's in the same category.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy 16 got a big patch, updating a lot of stuff in the game. They have also now confirmed, to no one's surprise, that they are going to work on 2 DLC content packs for the game.
I'll take it.
Does that shock anybody?
No. The only reason it's a little weird is 15. They eventually cut off DLCs that were in active production for that game. Like there were ones that they were like, we're gonna make these, and never mind, and they stopped. But 16, I think it did well enough, and when is 17? Maybe never. But they did some quality of life stuff, which is good. You can change the costumes and stuff, fine, whatever. But DLCs that would just explore more of that game and maybe give me more backstory on the other icons in that game would be very good.
That'd be cool.
Because there obviously is a lot of character development for a lot of these other ones, and you get to see bits and pieces of it. Having more backstory for all of them would be more interesting, or being able to play as them would be cool too, and do something for them. That would be fun. I'll play it whenever it's out. I'll play it. No question.
Yeah, I mean they're just starting development.
Sure, I mean, part of that is to make the game be relevant for a longer time too, and
they have also officially started work on the PC port.
Well, that's a huge part of it too. Get that money. Get that money now. And
yeah,
then, hey, maybe
you're going to need it.
Maybe when that PC port's done, they're like, "Hey, we can port that on Xbox pretty easy."
As another studio closure, there were a lot of studio closures this time. The studio behind the most critically panned game of this year, Golem, which I saw the other day at Walmart already for $20 and said that's still
pretty high.
Yeah. Still too high?
Yeah.
They are not making the other... I don't think they ever announced what the other Lord of the Rings game they were making was.
No, I don't think so. They just said it exists.
They were going to make another game, which I think at that time everybody kind of raised an eyebrow and said, are you really sure that this is happening? Not happening. That studio's been shut down. Obviously, I don't think we really need to go into it any further. But obviously that game was a massive.
I'm surprised it took that long to shut it down.
I am too. So, this new story I thought was really cool. This stuff happens from time to time. Original Xbox dev kit was uncovered that has a unreleased or part of an unreleased original Xbox game.
That's cool. I always love when that stuff happens.
Which is a prototype version of a Fast and Furious game that did come out on PSP and PS2. Was supposed to come out on Xbox but never did.
Interesting.
Which they have. The speculation is that the game was kind of canceled because the 360 launch was brought forward.
Okay.
That kind of messed everything up. The hard drive that was discovered also had a pre-release version of the Ford vs. Chevy game. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see the Fast and Furious thing because obviously it's, it was on the Xbox, which was a little bit more powerful at that time, so it's a better looking version of it.
Interesting.
But it's cool to see stuff that, was going to come out and never,
God, I always love,
that never did.
I always love how people are still finding this stuff. Where they're like,
what was it, like a year ago when that Castlevania Dreamcast game that I had reserved as a kid?
We found some dev Dreamcast stuff. It's like, you found what? Like, who the hell had that?
And now I look at it and go, man, it's probably a good idea that game didn't come out. But,
well, I mean, the Dreamcast, the thing about the Dreamcast is it died so fast that there's got to be a ton of that stuff out there. Right?
I bet you we will find more. Because I don't think... Sega's plan for that system was not the 2.
They didn't think that the thing was going to be dead in 2001. No.
And again, the thing I always say about the Dreamcast is it competed with both PS1 and PS2. It was a pretty damn good looking system.
Yeah.
Like, for both eras. So, the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster has sold 3 million copies, which is good because that means they'll do more of that kind of stuff.
Well, it means there's a market for old Square stuff. Just all right, great. That sold 3 million copies. Please give me like remakes of all of that stuff. I don't even need.
As I say every time, why is Chrono Trigger not playable on it?
I don't know. Like, that's such a weird. Like,
why hold on to that?
Why not? Why not do this? You want a thing you could do that would make both of us happy? How about we get a Chrono Trigger Secret of Evermore, like combo pack? We've up-res both of these things.
The thing that's crazier is they went back and they patched all the problems of that PC port and added all that functionality that's in the Pixel remasters, like speeding up time and stuff, to that version of Chrono Trigger. Why wouldn't you just take that? That's all I want is that version.
Yeah,
just put on modern systems.
But like, why not? Why not do like here's a remat like the Pixel remasters of Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore. All three of these things are on one thing. $60. Okay, fine, whatever. Those are worth 20 a piece. Like but this is good because it proves to them that people want this stuff. It proves that maybe there's a way, like, give me Tactics Advance and Tactics or something. Like, give me your the Game Boy stuff. Like any other like outlier stuff you have left over. Just Pixel Remaster, man. Like, just do it.
You might as well.
You have the technology.
If they can make a collection of the Game Boy Advance Castlevania games, put that out, you can do that.
They've done that multiple times.
So, to no one's surprise, the Alone in the Dark game has been delayed till January.
Weird.
Because, I mean, obviously you're going to put your game out a week after Spider-Man, and now on the same day as Alan Wake 2. Not a good idea.
No, it needs to live in its own space.
I was very happy for that delay, because I do really want to play that game. And now I will more than likely play that game at launch when it comes out in January.
Yep.
I thought this was cool. Stray is going to become an animated movie at some point.
It lends itself to that pretty easily.
It does very easily, so I can totally see it. I'm not surprised at all. So, I put this in here because I thought this was interesting. There's a new TMNT, not the one that was just announced, the last
Ronin one.
Yeah, but this is different, and it's going to act as kind of like a little mini sequel to the movie that was just released.
I mean,
it's looking for
I'm down.
I think fall 2024 release. So.
Strike while it's popular, man. Like,
I told Matt the other day, Turtles merchandise this year has sold, I think, was it $1 billion? I told you, like that article.
My son can't get enough of it. He loves every single piece of it that's been released.
The Walmart in my town, half of that action figure aisle is Turtle stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking just the movie, but like whatever other legacy figures. It's the
re-releases of the original stuff we had when we were kids. Yeah. It is the mini, like the reaction figures of those figures that we had when we were kids. They have all of the new stuff. They have the Turtles individually. They have them in battle packs with the villains. They have the Turtle van. Like, re-release the Turtle van. Re-release the Turtle blimp, dude. You know how many people would buy that fucking blimp? I would.
You know they did, though.
Is it like the old one where it's like the big...
Yeah.
Where?
I have it. I have them. Like the most re-released one.
Well, I'm talking like now. Like, put it out now.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
I can get the van now. They got the versions of them on skateboards. They got the talking ones. Like, remember when we were kids, we got all the weird-ass shit. It's like, here's Michelangelo wearing a Hawaiian shirt and he spits water. Why? Who the fuck knows? But he does.
I don't know.
Okay,
That's because at that point, all that stuff was selling so well, they just had to come up with random ideas.
But, like, it's cool because they actually did make all of the villains for this. Like, at Target, they have the pack where it comes with, like, all of them and April and all this. It's like, there's a shitload of this stuff, man. And
I didn't realize how big it was until I read that article, and then I actively paid attention the last time I was in Walmart, because I always run through that aisle looking for clearance and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally half of that aisle, and it's not a small aisle. is all turtle shit, and it's all random. Like,
I gotta start
that movie. So
I gotta start buying it now to put it aside for Christmas so that I can actually have it available. Because
it's going to be bad.
Yeah, he got. We were at the store one day. He had some birthday money, so he bought Leo, and it's like, okay, well now I got to go get the other three. I'll get myself a Splinter, and then but then I need to get him some villains. It's just like, damn, dude, it's like $150.
But yeah, it's a no-brainer for them to make that game on top of the last one. We kind of briefly talked about it earlier, but Sea of Stars is sold 250,000 copies already. On top of the game is on both PlayStation Plus Premium and Game Pass.
I would assume a lot of those are probably Steam, but
that's my guess too, because
it's still
and also
great.
I would imagine that game probably lends itself very well to a Steam Deck.
Oh yeah, so it's just a Super Nintendo.
Got a lot of people out there that have that. So
great game.
The other chuckle game, eyebrow raising story I put in here this week is Skull and Bones has lost its creative director. Right after that beta.
You know that the mentioning of this game makes me angry.
Can we just cancel it?
Just cancel the fucking game.
Can we admit that this game will not come out and Beyond Good and Evil 2 will never come out?
I don't trust Ubisoft to deliver anything anymore at all.
No.
I think Skull and Bones does come out at some point.
I think it has to because of how much money they have probably
Beyond
dumped
Good and
into
Evil 2 will not. That game.
I think that's just somebody's fever dream.
That's not a real game anymore, man. It's almost like it's a joke. Was it ever a real game?
I never saw footage of it.
Am I
ran as a video game
right now? Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't trust Ubisoft for realistically anything anymore. Like Assassin's Creed, like, there's 4 different ones in development, and they're all going to be different. And it's like, I don't know, man.
There's a new Far Cry in development.
It seems like we're going back to the thing that ruined it in the first place.
Yeah.
Slow down.
It's supposedly Splinter Cell, but who knows?
Well, that's the other reason I don't believe they're lies.
Yeah.
I've got a little Polaroid of Eve's written down that says "Don't believe his lies" underneath it.
There you go. Apparently, the Switch successor was demoed at Gamescom behind closed doors. I saw this flying around too. That they're saying the visuals are comparable to PS5 and Series X, which is, I mean, if true, that's awesome.
If true,
but I would love to see a Nintendo system that is on the same level, like with fidelity and frame rate.
That's got to be docked, though.
Oh, I would imagine.
Handheld, it couldn't be any better than probably
whatever the successor
Deck,
is, as we've said many times, it has to be the same hybrid. There's no way they're going to get away with that.
Right. I think it's probably just closer to like what a Steam Deck can do, right?
I would imagine.
I would think so.
But yeah, it can't be portable only, and they can't risk it being console. It has to be both. I think it's really just probably a Nintendo Steam Deck, right? That's what it has to be. And if docked, it can do PS5 level stuff. Perfect. That's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be anything better, because all that really does is it lets them get more third-party stuff and then have that third-party stuff actually work. But the downside to that is that might lend it to not being backwards compatible. And that's not good.
I don't know. I can see, again, Nintendo loves to make dumb decisions as well. Not to the level of Sony, but I could see them doing something stupid like, well, if you own it digitally.
I could see that. I think the only thing that prevents them from ever dumping physical media is Japan. Because physical media in Japan is huge. Like, just as an example, like I was talking to you about this the other day. Like that Batten Kaidos game for Switch, physical in Japan only. That new Yakuza game, PS5, physical Japan only. What was one I was talking to about somebody else? Ghost Trick for Switch, Japan only.
Oh yeah.
There was another one that we were talking about today, physical Japan only. It's like, well, shit, man, I'm gonna have to start importing a lot of stuff, which is fine, but it makes me need to wait to like make a big order, so I don't have to pay each one of these. Because that Suikoden 1 and 2 thing, I bet you there's a physical in Japan. Oh, the other one, the one we're talking about today, that Dragon Quest one that's based on that anime.
Oh yeah.
Physical Japan only.
Damn.
That's how pretty soon.
It's like 2 weeks.
The end of this month.
Yeah. That
the one that has the
like next week.
game.
Yeah.
Infinity Strash or something.
But
yeah, I would like to play that.
But like that's multiple things that I've just mentioned that are maybe not AAA stuff, but that's all Japan only. So the Switch, I feel like whatever the next thing is still has to be physical media. My hope is that they found a way to make these carts hold more stuff, and that there maybe there's Switch carts and there's Switch 2 carts, and they both fit in the same slot, but they do different things. That would be the dream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a 3DS could play DS games, right? That's what you would hope for. But
you can see something.
Who knows?
You put this next article in here.
Which one?
So the only up pulled from Steam.
Oh, I just thought that was funny because that came out like today. That only up game. You know what that is, right? The Steam.
I'm not up on the Steam.
It's a streamer game, but it's basically just like a physics-based game where you have to climb as high as you can, and it's just a whole bunch of shit kind of like put around. Like Matt, you know what it is, right?
Yeah, I've seen it played.
Yeah, it's a cool looking game because it's just kind of one of those things where like, how high can you climb, and it's wacky, and you have to jump over shit. But the guy pulled it off of Steam because it's too stressful. He's making too much money. I'm out. Hold it down. Okay, I get it. It's basically, remember Flappy Bird?
Yes.
Remember the thing about that where like that was hot for like 2 weeks, and then that guy was like, no more Flappy Bird. He took it away. It's basically that again.
Yeah.
So it's
people were like supposedly having those on old phones and selling old phones
and stuff. It's like, hey man, if you've got Only Up installed on your hard drive, cha-ching.
There you go.
But it's basically just a streamer game. But I think is it stressful to maintain a game that's so popular? Oh, absolutely it is. But he could also just be like, I'm not going to update the game again and just leave it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
But I mean, that game's everywhere. That game's been everywhere.
Huge.
Like,
it's huge.
It's very big.
I also go on Twitch like 2 times a year, and that's if I remember games.
Yeah, I'm not a big Twitch guy.
Don't interengage with that platform.
The only reason I saw it was TikTok.
Something came up.
I scroll through TikTok a lot, and so I have a lot of gamers that are doing on TikToks. And so a lot of them are playing.
Something came up on YouTube that I saw.
Because I have recently gotten into like the Instagram short videos, which are the same thing. I can lose like a good 40 minutes just scrolling through those.
Yeah.
Hey, TikTok, I never try.
Yeah.
I never get anything done. So the last thing we put in here is kind of newsworthy, more of a rumor. There are big rumors about the September Nintendo Direct. We'll have announcements including a new Donkey Kong game and the potential return of F-Zero.
Interesting.
Which it's the right time.
I love F-Zero. I love F-Zero.
Yeah. It's been 20 years.
It's been 20 years. Now, I don't want F-Zero GX Switch. Please don't. Like, come on. Just please. But if that's all I get, I guess I will begrudgingly buy it. But
what if it's F-Zero GX now? Maybe, hey, we're working on something for the future.
But that's fine, but I need more stuff. It can't be the same game.
Okay.
Like, it could be this, it's obviously, if you're going to give it to me, I want it cleaned up, and, obviously controls will have to be reworked and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But, please don't just release F-Zero GX. Like, I love that game. But give me more. Like, more courses, more pilots. That game is just so good. And it's been 20 years. And then if that comes out, then the only things that they left that they have just like completely abandoned are like Star Fox and Kid Icarus. And, they'll pimp them in Smash Brothers forever, but they won't ever make another Star Fox game because they fucked up Zero. But
for sure. That kind of does it for the news. We can transition. You have some GameStop reviews to go through this week.
Yeah, I just wanted to read a couple good ones.
another somewhat local to us.
Yeah, one I have been to, one I have done an inventory at.
Like, as well.
Yeah, it's there's some good ones from these are from a couple years ago, but I'll read a couple quick ones. 5 months ago, the manager here is a piece of work. He made me cry. I hope you feel better about yourself. This is a good one. Was just in here with my son. A lady was paying and then afterwards asked for a bag. She was told she had to buy one for $1. She said, okay, sure, but the total was $109. So she said she had to run out to her car for 9 cents. She did and came back in 30 seconds or less. In that time, the associate took the next customer. The next customer wanted to sell a game system. He started to check it. The woman came back in with her 9 cents, and he told her she had to get back in line behind me and wait to buy the bag. She said, okay, never mind, and left. He expected her to wait 15 minutes for that bag rather than just taking the 30 seconds to sell it to her quickly. It's not like the store was busy. I told him how rude it was. Why couldn't he just quickly sell her the bag when he knew she'd have to wait a while? I normally don't post this side of stuff, but was shocked because he defended it when I said something. Maybe he woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day. The lady left without saying anything. I don't think I could have bit my tongue like she did. That's insanity. 9 cents? 9 cents.
Is that a thing now? Like at some point where they're charging for bags?
Oh, certain places do. If you go to the town west of us and like Walmart, you have to pay for bags. But 9 cents, he couldn't have just been like, if she gave him the 9 cents, he couldn't just taken the money, set it down, and rang it up later when everybody was doing something. Also, stores have multiple registers. You couldn't have hopped on the second one and just doot, done. The person taking the game system, you got to wait for this game system to like boot up and stuff anyway.
At this point, I would find it hard pressed that there is a GameStop store out there that doesn't have at least 2 registers.
Is it possible? We had 3, and that was we never had to use. We never had to get to. Well, no. It wasn't hooked up properly, so it was too delayed, so we couldn't even do it. It's just like I can't. 9 cents. Here, what was the other? Here's another good one. I'll read this one and we can move on, but because they're all kind of about the same person.
Yeah.
Parents and shopper, beware of this person and his staff here who will only sell you new consoles in a bundle. Now, this was a thing for a little bit, depending on what it was. Depending on what it was.
Yeah.
And are willing and okay with selling a used console without the bundle. The sales practices are completely and totally unethical. My local GameStop was closed recently, but I never had an experience like the one I did at this store. The female who was in front kept running to the back to get coached on how to pitch the bundle from the manager, this guy's been a problem. And he finally came out to spew the lies himself. I left out spending $600 just so I could get a new PS4. See, now, if they're buying a PS4, were those ever forced bundles? Why would you force bundle a PS4 2 years ago?
That is weird. I don't think that would have been.
It's 2021.
Yeah, no.
And simply be told by corporate that it was not correct what he had told me, and I had to drive another 45 minutes to another GameStop to return all the extras I was forced to take on.
Damn.
And then this is in all caps. I will never go back here. Do not spend your hard-earned cash at this location of liars. That's really good.
Liars.
That's really good because it's probably true.
That's good. It seems weird.
Well, last quick one. If you pre-order games, the manager claims to have called you multiple times, but when confronted with actual proof, he changes his story. And then he name drops the guy, and then he says, "Be prepared to not receive your game or a refund." Gee, all of these bad reviews are about this one specific person. Isn't that strange?
Strange.
I think I know who it is too, which is good. And if it is who I think it is, yeah, he's a piece of shit. So, oops,
still there.
I think he was, and he is. I think as of recently, he is not. Okay. If it is the person I think it is.
Yeah, you think it is. Okay. Well, we can switch over to emails. Not a lot of emails this week, but again, a lot of people, we had a big holiday weekend just happened. So we go ahead and kick through them. The first email we have here comes from Ramon from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It says, "Hey guys, with Starfield seeming to be a massive success and console sales through the roof of this month thanks to this game, if Microsoft can consistently deliver games every 3 to 4 months, do you think there's any way they could come out on top again in North America like the 360 era?" I think this generation's
you would mean between PlayStation because Switch is the top. But
yeah. To be fair,
yeah,
I think this generation it's not possible.
No, I don't think it's anywhere
too far
close
gone.
to possible.
Even if this generation goes till 2028 to 2030, depending on what happens, I don't see it.
It would take something incredible for that to happen. Like
the one thing I'll point out, and I think a lot of people overlook this, is by the end of this year, for better or worse, Microsoft will put out 4 exclusive games, being Hi-Fi Rush, Redfall, which is
well,
again, not good, but it is an exclusive game. Starfield and Forza. So they have made good on this year if you compare it to the last 2 years, which literally had like nothing.
Right.
They have actually put out games this year. Granted, again, one of them was a very big flop. I think they definitely can do better if they could stick to this 3 to 4 games a year. But they're not gonna overtake PlayStation.
That's where it falls apart for me. Like, is that the goal? Sure. Is it realistic? No. Like, they're not.
Sony's not even doing.
Sony's almost worse.
Right now?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Horizon and Spider-Man, is that it? Does Horizon count?
Well, Horizon wasn't even this year.
Yeah.
Horizon wasn't this year, unless you're counting the DLC.
Yeah. But
Horizon was last year. This year was, if you want to get technical, this year was PSVR 2 in February, Spider-Man in October. Like that's your 2 big exclusives. Hey, buy this fucking VR thing that is more expensive than the console.
Yeah,
and
and then buy a $200 portable thing which can stream from your console, and then buy new earbuds that only work with the portable.
How are we in September and we still don't know what their next game is?
I don't know. Like, what could it be?
The only thing that we know of that's being worked on is Death Stranding 2, but I would imagine that's a fall 2024 game at this point.
That's pretty far,
so,
I would assume. Yeah.
That's pretty far. I would imagine that is a game that comes out next year, but
sure.
That's it. I don't, there's some other, smaller things that they've talked about. There's that game, I always forget the name of it, but the one with the lady and the sword that was kind of futuristic.
Oh,
cool. I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember it either. I know exactly the game you're talking about, though.
But I think that was that's a second party. So it's like, what are they doing next? We don't know.
Yeah.
At least on Microsoft's side, I can tell you, I've seen what the future is. It's just, will they consistently deliver that future? I don't know.
The things that are coming for them are things that I'm genuinely interested in. But
will they make good on that? Right. Or am I waiting?
Yeah, is Avowed a year from now? Is it 18 months from now? Is it
exactly?
It's tough because I think they have a goal to do this, but I don't know if they'll hit it. And I think the other thing is just I don't think they're in the market right now of being number one. I think they're in the market right now of finally getting this thing to be consistent, where they can say we have these games coming. We have our games coming. They're all going to be on the service day one. We are
and that's their
ready
number one
to
thing.
do this.
Right.
That's what I think they care about. They need to prove themselves.
They changed their business model a while ago from being about selling systems to selling the subscription. So I don't think they care as much.
Yeah, they need to prove it to themselves and to everybody else that they can continue this. Obviously the Activision Blizzard thing is a big deal, but it's going forward. I don't necessarily think that deal means exclusives on anything.
Right.
No.
Right?
The biggest thing that it means is at some point, Game Pass will have Call of Duty day and date.
Right.
But that's probably not until 2025 at the earliest, because they've already said, obviously the deal hasn't gone through yet, so that's not going to happen in this Call of Duty. And they've already said it's not going to happen the next one.
Right.
So it's going to be a while. So, and also, let's be fair. I don't think they're going to, whenever they finally have the keys to Activision, I don't think they shadow drop all that stuff on their subscription service like Bethesda.
They do it at the right time.
They do a drip feed of it.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a bunch of Crash Bandicoot games.
Starfield,
here's a bunch of,
Starfield is the first step in the correct direction.
Absolutely. Starfield is a good example of, again, remember, it's a game that should have been out last year.
Right.
And they took another year. Now, obviously, having played the game now, I'm glad they took that year and actually
that it did not
put
come
out a polished
year.
game, because I feel like if it came out last year, it would have been the Bethesda jank mess that we would have all expected.
Different conversation about it. Yeah,
very much so.
But
I think at some point they went. I'm sure Todd Howard and they probably went to Phil Spencer and just said, like, we can't put this out yet.
Right.
Give us the time to polish it.
And hopefully that's what fixes Bethesda, because like ES6 is not for a long time. Like, now that Starfield is out, doesn't mean ES6 comes out next year. It doesn't mean it comes out in 25.
Yeah.
No.
It's 20.
What it means is they will take a large percentage of the Starfield team and move them onto Elder Scrolls. They'll keep some of those people working on DLC and updates and patches for Starfield, but again, they have maybe a rough outline of what they want to do with Starfield. They have an idea? Or
of ES6.
Elder Scrolls.
They have an idea.
That's it.
They probably have like a design document in place, and now they got to start making it.
The worst thing they ever did was show that title card.
Yeah, I think at the time you and I
put this idea in people's minds of like, oh, we're going to get this right away. No,
you and I talked about it at the time where it was like that was seen as more of like a yes, we will make this game shut up kind of a move. But that
it would have been fine for them to just say, "Hey, Starfield's our next game."
But I
mean, look how long that took.
It doesn't
6 years.
As much as I think that some companies should do like the shut up move, it doesn't work anymore because people are so quick to go online and just flame everything about stuff that doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
Like, ES6 is a twinkle in Daddy Howard's eye.
I will say, well, not all the numbers are out there. I did see, at least from Amazon, the percentage of Series X and S systems was like 1,000% up for sales.
Oh, I mean, it's like we were talking about before.
This is a system selling.
It's selling.
It was always going to be.
It's selling well. It's streaming well. Like the it's not on PS5 argument is such a horseshit argument. Because again, it is on PC. If something's on PC, by definition, it is not exclusive.
I do know it is not playable on Steam Deck, but that's not surprising.
That game would melt a Steam Deck, I'm sure. But yeah, this is I feel better about Microsoft today than I have in probably 2 years. Because
I do as well, but there's no way.
I have seen Fable, I have seen Avowed. Forza's always going to be around.
Yeah.
Like, keep it up is the thing.
The only of their camp, the only game that I would be concerned about at this point is Perfect Dark. So.
Oh yeah, well, someone who, I mean, I'm not.
That's the constant joke between me and my buddy of like, what will we get first, Perfect Dark or Elder Scrolls 6?
I couldn't tell you.
So, next email we have in comes from Jay from Monroe, New York. He says, "Hey guys, this PlayStation Plus price hike has to be a joke, right? Sony has felt like they are slipping back into their 2006 era of comfort and smugness, but this really is the last straw for me. I'm not renewing my Plus sub, and honestly, I've been looking at getting a Series X. Starfield looks amazing, and Game Pass does seem like a much better service at this point. What do you all think of the price hike?" Obviously, we kind of went in detail, but I mean, we all think it's bullshit.
Yeah,
hot garbage.
But it's
funny because like he brings up a good point. He's like, because of the timing of this, could it just push people to change over to Xbox? It could.
Again, right? You and I saw this happen so many times when we were working at GameStop, where a big game would come out and people would switch sides between the two systems. You know,
we had people that would go back and forth.
Not that it's a good game, but I'll give an example. Halo 5. I remember specifically when that came out, there were a lot of kids that switched from having a PS4 to having an Xbox because they thought that would be the return of Halo.
Right.
And obviously it was not.
But like people would switch for God of War.
It got people.
People would switch for everything.
Gears 4 when it came out, there was a little bit with Gears 4, but it was more so with Halo 5, I remember. And then there was something that came out for PlayStation.
God of War was one for sure.
We saw it. For sure.
I think even No Man's Sky people were doing it because they fell for the hype.
I remember a little bit of that because a lot of people
remember that, we could not
as we predicted was
stock.
No
impossible.
Yeah. So
it's funny because we would get.
I'm sure that's driving some of it because, again, look at the timing.
Yeah.
So it's just an absolute horrible time.
Well, and like he's talking about, like, you know, going back to like the 2006 complacency. Like they literally thought when the PS3 came out, they could do no wrong. They thought our system's $600 because you'll pay it. Remember that?
I will give you the infamous quote that no company could say in 2023, which was, if you don't like the $600 price tag, get a second job.
Yeah.
You could not say that today and still have, like, God, that was pre-Twitter.
It's $600 because you'll pay for it because we told you so. Yeah. And guess what? As someone who worked at a store that let the PS3 launch, no, people didn't pay that. You could walk around to any local store. A month after they were out, this store's got 2. That one has 4. There's 12.
I remember.
Didn't they make a quote? The one guy said something where he's like, "If you can go to a store and buy a PS3 right now, I'll give you $600." And it was just like, oh, here's 2, here's 4, here's another. Like they were everywhere. Yeah. We could not sell them. We had people buy them with the intention of reselling them that could not, and then return them.
I remember this would have been back when I was working at Target when the PS3 came out. My one buddy was very much, you know, Sony fan, didn't get a 360. And I remember him getting the PlayStation at launch, and I remember playing Resistance and just being like, this is what you paid $600 for? Like, and the other thing you have to remember, what big game came out at that time on Xbox that was a huge fucking deal? Gears of War 1.
Yeah.
The original Gears of War, it was a huge, huge deal for that system.
I'm going to read you this quote right now because this is incredible.
Okay.
This is incredible. I found it.
Okay.
EGM, in an interview with Sony's Jack Tretton in early January, mentioned the recent availability of his company's console. It seemed like about 50% of the people in line were there to make a quick buck on eBay, and now we're seeing a lot more units on store shelves. Jack seemed a tad surprised by this, but he put his money where his mouth is. If you can find a PS3 anywhere in North America that's been on the shelves for more than 5 minutes, I'll give you $1,200 for it. I can get any retail buyer on the phone with you and get them to verify that there's not a single retail location in America where there's a PS3 on the shelf for sale. They've all been sold in a matter of minutes. After EGM let Tretton know that they had indeed phoned 18 stores and found half of them had PS3s in stock, some stores with as many as 20 consoles, Jack held firm, if only 9 of the 18 stores you contacted had supplies, that seems to be a clear indication that sales continue to be outstanding. So there you have it. Jack's not backing down. We're guessing our check is already in the mail. What? See, that's how delusional they were about.
They were very delusional at that time.
Yeah. $1,200 if you can find one. We found 9 stores, and one of them has 20. Well, 9 stores didn't have any, though. So, fuck off. Like, he knew. Like, they know. That was their whole attitude for, like, the first,
But that's the attitude we're seeing today.
Yeah. And it's back because they feel like after the PS4 came out and kicked Xbox's ass again, because Xbox made mistakes, they can't do anything wrong. And now it seems like Sony decides, let's just do it. Let's make some mistakes. It's all cyclical, man.
That's stupid.
For sure. Next email we have comes from Kevin from, I'm going to say it's Vacaville. I think it's Vacaville, California. Hey guys, I'm just curious if you all think the retro market bubble is still waiting to burst. It just seems like any convention, yard sale, or flea market I go to, everyone knows what they have or pull out their phone to check first and then offer prices way above what they should be. Is this ever going to come to an end?
No.
Probably not at this point.
No. It's...
COVID ruined it. Like, COVID destroyed it. Because it was already not good before COVID, right? People were getting wiser to this stuff. The only thing I can see killing retro stuff is the fact that some of this stuff is 30, 35, 40 years old. It's going to stop working at a certain point.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to replace a battery in a SNES cartridge or a Pokemon Game Boy game, you're sitting on something that's essentially worthless.
Yeah.
So, people like to bitch about disc rot and stuff on PS1 games. Is that technically something? Sure. I have handled how many video game discs would you say I've handled in my life?
Oh God,
500,000?
Like
we're talking, hundreds a day for 15 years.
Yeah.
I've never seen disc rot to the point where it's disintegrating a disc. It's like you pick it up and it.
No, that's the thing. It's like that was always the fear. Like 20 years ago with like DVD and stuff. It's like no, all that stuff's still
it's all fine as long as you put it away.
My CD collection is upstairs and still works.
As long as you put it away, it's going to be fine. In 100 years will it work? Maybe not. But like everybody's panicking about that. But we're getting to a point where like NES systems are going to stop working, and if you don't know how to repair them, it's useless. Now, are they easy to repair? Yeah. Yes, and they get easier to repair every year. But it doesn't. It's just I would hope it would pop. I just can't see it pop.
I would too. I can't see it popping anytime soon.
Not at all.
I mean, I'll give you an example. So, I went in this past weekend to the past holiday weekend Saturday. We have a couple pawn shops in my area, but we have one over by me. They actually, to be fair, they had a lot of retro games that I looked at a lot of N64 stuff. But that's not a system I'm really looking for to collect for. So it was more like, hey, that's cool. You have Mario Party 3 or whatever, but I'm not looking for that. But I went specifically looking for guitar amp, but it's the same type of deal. They had to bring the guy had to come bumbling up from some back room, look at this one guitar amp. I know what it goes for online. For him to sit there on his phone for 10 minutes and then look at me and go, $300, whereas it goes online for like $175. So it's just it's the same type of thing, though. It's like it's the phone mentality.
The problem with it is
phone
you're not just going to a regular store to buy this stuff anymore. None of it is regulated. Even a place like I go to Half Price Books often just to see.
It's not regulated.
It's not regulated. Something could be the same game could be in two different stores, wildly different prices. I am lucky that the one near me prices things what I would say is appropriate. Where if I look it up on my phone, a lot of times I'm looking to see if I have something or not. But like, price charting will come up in the app. If it's generally within $5 either way, that's appropriately priced. Now, if I go to the other Half Price Books, which is a couple towns over, things are generally 20 to 30% over what they should be. So it's just it's so random. Like you're not buying anything from a store anymore. Well, let me get out my phone. And one of the other thing too is like a lot of people don't know how to check eBay. Well, somebody has it listed for $1,000.
They're not going to.
That doesn't mean anything.
What's
the last one sell for? Oh, well, 40. Oh, I'll give you 40. Well, no. What the hell are we doing? And like everything's getting rarer. Even commons are getting rarer.
For sure,
the internet has completely ruined it.
You could take, for example, this past week when we did our Spirit Week at work, Kyle, and I brought down my original Game Boy.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone in our group was like, "Oh man, you got one of those? Those are worth some money now." But I'm like, an OG Game Boy?
Not really.
I didn't say anything, of course, because I didn't want to be like, "No, not really." But I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." But I mean,
look at that. It's probably going to sell for more than you would think today, just because.
I think you get other people who don't know the market and are buying this stuff, right?
It just seems like gone is the dream of like rolling up to a garage sale where grandma and grandpa have stuff left from their grandkids that they don't know or care.
It's getting harder and harder,
and it's like, hey, I have this box of old Super Nintendo games that a box of pure gold, $50. Like you don't. It just doesn't really happen anymore. That's because everybody has a phone.
Those are turning into once in a lifetime scores for a lot of people.
Pretty much.
We got lucky because we had we had an in. Like, we were the place you would go to try to sell this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and if people were trying to get rid of stuff, they would just sell it to us. Like, they didn't give a shit. But the other problem is all of these fucking bootleg games, all the fakes. Like Pokemon, a friend of mine who still runs a GameStop just had a whole bunch of them traded in because their employee had no clue. They showed me some pictures, and I went,
any training for that.
They have some, but it's not good. And they showed me the pictures, and I went, well, these all kind of like they were good. Like, these were some of the best I've seen because all of the original things you would think to look for kind of matched up. But then you look at
what tipped you off?
Well, there's a couple things. You look at it as a whole of what this person sold. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Emerald, Yellow. Like, why is someone selling 7 Pokemon games to a GameStop? That doesn't make any sense. Like, that is not.
No, it doesn't.
So if the rule of thumb, if you work at a GameStop and you're listening to this, if people come in with retro stuff, if it seems too good, it's way too good.
Yeah,
that is not a common thing people trade. The scam, if you're going to do this scam, would it be to bring in generic shit too? Oh, I've got a couple sports game and a Pokemon game, and whatever. Like, one of them, the games they got was a Super Metroid, and the label was wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they had a Harvest Moon for 64 that looked far too good. Like, you know what I mean? Even in the picture, it looked new. No way.
Yeah.
That hurts all this stuff too. And then you've got places out there that willingly sell repros and don't market.
Yeah.
Because people who don't know what they're buying just buy stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Next email we have comes from Jackson from Redacted. Says, hey guys, love the podcast. I wanted to write in about the absolute shit show that GameStop has been, and since rolling out the tax on trade credit, customers are not having it at all. At least at my store, I've taken more cancels this week than in my entire 6-year tenure at this shit company. District leader is pissed as hell about it, but it is out of my control. Fuck whoever decided at the top board decided this would be a good way to earn a few extra dollars more.
So what
you should obviously, GameStop people that are listening know what this is, but you should explain.
What this is a big fuck show. So
it's bad. You told me, and I laughed.
When I was told of it before, I questioned them. I said, "Are you really?"
Yeah.
So what happens
insane.
now is, in the past, when you traded in a game and you got $20 for it, and you chose store credit, you got $20 in store credit, which was enough to buy something that was $20, because anything that was paid for with store credit was not taxed. So it was almost like an even swap kind of a thing. And that was just something that always existed. That existed for me at Game Crazy. So it's existed
that's Funko Land
forever.
That's been forever. Yeah.
Credit was credit, and it was not taxed. That changed at the drop of a hat, like 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, or whatever, without them telling anyone. So all of a sudden, you have $20 in credit. You want to buy something that's $20. Great, you owe me X amount more. Excuse me, what?
So stupid.
And then when confronted about it, they put out this little blurb where basically, that's not going to happen anymore. Excuse me, what? So it comes down to one of two things. Either it was always should have been a thing, and they just ate the cost on that, because in theory, they're going to make their money back from selling the used stuff that's traded in.
Yeah.
Like, something trades for $20, they were going to sell it for $50. We'll eat the $2 in tax, or the $1.50 in tax. So maybe that was part of it. Or it is being changed on purpose so that they can just go ahead and collect that money.
Yeah.
Which seems more likely. Because I highly doubt that, pawn laws or trade laws or whatever category that falls under, on a state, a county level, a state level, a federal level, whatever it is, I highly doubt that changed across the board and they didn't know anything about it.
No.
It's I couldn't imagine, if we were still there, having to explain that to somebody Like, especially because, like, if you
I wouldn't want to
imagine if you traded something the day before and got $20 and then came back the day after. So now it's not, your money's not worth as much 2 days later. What?
It's
you use that money.
Well,
you use that money to think of it this way, Kyle. I fully pre-ordered a game in trade credit a month ago.
Yeah.
I fully pre-ordered Spider-Man in trade credit a month ago. Cool. When you pick it up, you owe me $8. Yeah. Excuse me, what? No, I don't. Yeah, you do. Because there's nothing you could do about it.
How about somebody? Not this probably. Well, there's that Mario. I guess you can use this as an example, but how about that Mario Edition OLED Switch that's coming out? Let's say somebody fully paid that off. That's a bigger chunk of tax.
That's
coming to pick that up. Oh, I have this fully paid up. That's another $25, $30, yo, man. Like, just wild.
Got a problem, call your congressman.
Our final email of the week, also from Redacted, also about the tax. This comes from Rob from Redacted. Hi, guys. GameStop SL for 15 years here. And while I've weathered some insane bullshit throughout my tenure, including everything with COVID, this trade credit, including tax, has to be the worst of them all. Regulars are confused as hell, and let's be honest, regulars are all GameStop has left. They've alienated every other type of GameStop customer, so I guess it's no surprise that they had to do it to the core group that still shops at us. This has just motivated me to finally dust off the resume, update it, and look to get out. I've always told myself no one will want me because my biggest work experience is GameStop for a total of 18 years, 15 being an SL. But it's finally time for me to put my excuses aside. Thanks for what you guys do each week. Hearing other stories at finally breaking the shackles has very much inspired me, and this trade tax thing was the final nail for me. I don't blame you.
I don't think no.
I don't know how you survived through the COVID stuff, because that would have
broken me too. Like that, I was,
thing,
quote unquote fortunate enough to close 3 years before that happened. But
the thing that would have broken me was when they tried to go against police authority and print out that bullshit
to try
sign
to claim that
my corporate says that I can stay open.
We're essential.
Oh, call this number.
We sell headsets
we're essential.
And batteries. That was their argument.
Sell a keyboard. Yeah. Work from home stuff.
COVID would have broken me. SL2, if I would have made it through COVID.
If you made it through COVID, SL2 would have broken you.
I would have told them, there's no way. Come on. They're purposely, because they know they can get away with it. They're purposely changing everything. And
that's the reason why
it's ever since Chewy took over. Everything that man touches goes to shit. Rapidly fast. And then he jokes about it on Twitter because he thinks he's fucking hilarious. You're not, dude.
As he ruins the company.
You're not, dude. He's ruining it on purpose. And there's no other play here. It has to be done to line his pocket with as much as possible before it tanks. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I would assume so.
But, yes, please update your resume.
Did he own... Here's the question. Did he own the company when the GameStop did the stock stuff?
He was part of it. Okay. Yeah, he was a big part of it.
Okay.
What's his name? I got it.
Because that's all we fucking call it, dude.
But
it's bad enough now that when you say Chewy, the first thing I think of is not Chewbacca.
Hey, you know what comes up?
Fucking dude.
You know what comes up when I Google his name?
What?
Meme stock king Ryan Cohen is under SEC investigation. That's good. Because his Bed Bath & Beyond trades. Remember how that company tanked? And made him made him $60 million in 5 months all of a sudden. Gee, that's weird.
Damn.
Almost like he knew what was going to happen.
Weird.
Yeah, so for Rob, your 18 years at GameStop means far more than you think it does. You've done everything. Especially now. If you're still a store leader now, just take a second and think about what you actually do.
What your day-to-day is.
It's crazy. Yeah. If you're an SL2, it's double. You're running 2 stores. You're running 2 teams. You are almost solely responsible for the financial wealth of both of these stores on your own.
Which
you should not be.
Yeah.
But you
no.
are.
God, no.
If you're like me, you're a maintenance man who had to fight repairs.
Well,
you know, like the amount of cash handling you've done, inventories you've done, like you could easily transition to a comparable, if not better, retail job. But I think your skills, especially customer service / like managerial skills, translate really well to almost anything, because they're gonna look at you as someone who you can solve your own problems. You work well in a team, but you also work well as an individual because you are managing all this stuff. Like, you just have to find the right ways to word everything.
I mean, that's the biggest thing when you get that question of like, how well are you at problem solving? And your first answer can easily be, I ran a GameStop for 15 years.
I ran, for a while, I ran 2 of them.
Exactly. Like what do you
every
think?
day at that job, you can tell them, you can give them specific examples. Every day at that job is problem solving, figuring out how I was going to schedule people appropriately within the boundaries I was given to complete all of these tasks.
Oh my gosh.
But if you think about it too, like customer service and all that stuff, like you guys don't technically work customer service, but those skills work for what you do.
Yeah.
Because you know how to talk to people and interact with people you've never met before. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to find the correct way to say this, but I say this all the time when we talk about this, like with other people, like just think about what you actually do all day and realize how much more it actually is. You had to remember, I would have to do, leadership reviews with you. Like, that's where, like, we would have to take time where the two of us go sit in the back and we talk about what you've done and what your score is. And I had to evaluate talent. I had to hire talent. I had to go run job fair. I had to do all this other kind of shit. Like, that's not something a normal person should have to do.
Think about this. That would have been back in the day when you had 3 people working.
Yes.
Somebody had to be out on the floor.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, we would have to schedule it where, like, the two of you overlap for 2 hours. But there could conceivably be time on, like, a Saturday where I would, we'd have me in the morning with someone who worked 10 to 2, and then you and the other guy would come in. We could have 4 people on one day. Imagine that.
Yeah.
That was normal.
Yeah.
And then, like, every other normal day would be, like, me 9 to whatever, the closer 2:30 to whatever, and then the helper 5 to whatever.
Yeah.
That was normal.
I can't imagine today.
And even that felt understaffed at times.
Yeah.
But today, that's why SL2 probably would have broke me. Like, just the nightmare of, we have a scheduling
You have to
program.
do everything.
We have a scheduling program that can help you. No,
2 times.
But you have to do everything twice. You have to be on top of 2 different teams of people.
Managing 2 different
And if you've ever worked
That's
at
insane.
2 different GameStops or know people from 2 different GameStops, every GameStop team is different. Look at these reviews I read today. You went to this store where this guy was the manager. It seems like a tire fire.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. But you can't do it, Rob. There's no better time than to quit right now before holidays start and really just give it to them.
But yeah, that wraps up emails for this week. The next podcast episode, we will hopefully be having Ryan E. Miller on. So we did get a couple emails, so I'm obviously holding those for that episode. But if you have questions for him specifically, please send them.
And if you guys don't know who he is, check him out on YouTube. Yeah. Just Ryan E. Miller. His social stuff is Cripple Threat 8 for a lot of his stuff. He's a really funny comedian. He's a huge gamer. He's, we had him on once. What was that? Like a year and a half ago, I want to say.
Yeah, I was like,
it was May of 2022.
Okay, so
and then
around
you and I actually had the opportunity this past spring to go see.
Saw him live, and we met.
Local.
Talked to him for a couple minutes.
Talked to him a little bit. Yeah,
but he's a great guy. So. He's funny as hell. Super nice. I'm like I'm sure he would love to answer questions for you guys because we did some last time, and
absolutely.
I'm sure he'd be willing to go over it again.
Sure. But as always, send your emails into podcast572@gmail.com. I guess the other thing I'll tease here is this next week I'm going to be taking a trip down to the southern part of the state going to that one game store.
Yeah, you're going to
so I will
game store.
I will probably have something to talk about after that experience.
I'm hoping
hopefully.
to, the day after we record next, go on my own little trip to some of those places. So we can go over that too.
So actually, ironically, next weekend I'm going to Florida for the weekend, and I might take some old stuff with me to see if I can trade up somewhere. So maybe we all have something interesting to talk about.
I'll say this. I'm going to be scrounging through for any of those Funkos I have left I don't care about, and same with Amiibo, and I'm just going to take those back. I don't care.
Let me know what Amiibo you got. Let me know what Amiibo you got before you do it.
I will. Like, whatever you give me, I'm just going to use to buy something retro. So
let me know about the Amiibo, because my kids are into them, and they like to play with them like toys. So I might be interested.
I have the ones that I'm getting rid of. I will tell you are probably sealed, but I mean you can do whatever.
Well, I opened a lot of mine at some point because I finally got tired of it.
I opened a few of them for sure, but I'll let you know. So. But yeah, otherwise we will see you in another 2 weeks for another edition of Podcast 572. As always, thank you for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.